Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Quarantine Theater. We are reading Billy Wilder's comic masterpiece, Some Like It Hot. And we have an amazing cast here tonight. We have George Graham. We have Clinton McKay. We have Chelsea Lynn. We have Travis Sanders. We have Jared Millsap. We have Kenzie Paul. Julia Ricci. And we have Paul Sosa, and I am Jack Fields. Welcome, everybody. All right, let's dive right in. All righty, and again, I kind of abridged the scene description, so if you want to just jump right in with your great one-liner, go for it, my actors. All righty. Fade in to a city at night. A hearse of late 20s vintage is proceeding at a dignified pace along a half-deserted wintry street. Inside the hearse, there are 4 somber men in black, and a coffin, of course, with a wreath of chrysanthemums on top. One of the men is driving, another is in the seat beside him. The other 2 are sitting in the rear of the hearse, flanking the coffin. All 4 seem fully aware of the solemnity of the occasion. Now they hear a siren, faint at first, but rapidly growing louder. The driver and the man next to him exchange a nervous glance. The other 2 men move tensely toward the rear door of the hearse, raise the black curtain over the glass panel, and peek out cautiously. Through the glass panel, they see a police car bearing down on them, the red light blinking, the siren screaming. The 2 men at the rear window gesture to the driver to step on it. He does. By this time, the policemen are leaning out of their car with drawn guns, firing at the hearse. The 2 men in the rear of the hearse, flattened against the sides, pull a couple of sawed-out shotguns out of a hidden overhead rack. Police bullets smash the glass panel and whistle through the hearse. The driver and the man next to him duck, but the hearse continues at the same breakneck speed. The 2 men in back shove their guns through the shattered glass, fire at the police car. Suddenly, the car skids out of control, jumps the curb, comes to a screeching stop. Policemen leap out, fire after the hearse. In the speeding hearse, the last of the police bullets thud into the coffin. Instantly, 3 geysers of liquid spurt through the bullet holes. As the firing recedes, the 2 men in the back put away their guns, remove the wreath from the coffin, take the lid off. The inside is jam-packed with bottles of booze, some of them shattered by the bullets, as the men start to lift out the broken bottles. Dissolved to the exterior of an intersection of streets. The traffic is light. All of the shops are dark except for one, a dimly lit establishment from which drift the mournful strains of an organ. A circumspect sign reads, Mozzarella's Funeral Parlor, 24-hour service. In the window, a sample coffin is on display. There seem to be some rites going on inside, because a number of mourners, singly and in couples, are hurrying from the cold, windy street into Mozzarella's parlor. Across the street and around the corner, 3 police cars draw up silently, and about 15 uniformed policemen and plainclothes men spill out. A captain gives whispered orders, and the men scatter and discreetly take up positions around the funeral parlor. Out of one of the cars steps Mulligan, a tough federal agent in plain clothes. Of course, with him is a little weasel of a man, shivering with cold and fear. They call him Toothpick Charlie for 2 reasons, because his name is Charlie, and because he has never been seen without a toothpick in his mouth.
All right, Charlie, this is the joint.
Yes, sir.
And who runs it?
I already told you.
Refresh my memory.
Spats Colombo.
That's refreshing. Now, what's the password?
I come to Grandma's funeral. Here's your admission card.
Thanks, Charlie.
If you want a ringside table, tell them you're one of the pallbearers.
Okay, Charlie. We're all set. When is the kickoff?
Look, Chief, I better blow now because if Spats Colombo sees me, it's goodbye, Charlie.
Goodbye, Charlie. Give me 5 minutes, then hit him with everything you got. You bet.
They synchronize their watches. Then Mulligan crosses to Mozzarella's parlor, unfolding the black crepe Charlie gave him. It is in a mourning band, and he slips it over the left sleeve of his overcoat. In the funeral parlor, it looks legitimate enough, with potted palms, urns, and funeral statuary. A harmless gray-haired man is playing the organ with appropriate feeling. Daintily arranging a funeral spray is the proprietor himself, Mr. Mozzarella. His heavyweight build, bashed-in nose, and cauliflower ears don't quite jibe with his morning coat, striped pants, ascot, and carnation. Dusting one of the marble angels is another funeral director in the same somber uniform. Enter Mulligan. Good evening, sir.
I come to the old lady's funeral.
I don't believe I've seen you at any of our services before.
That's because I've been on the wagon.
Please.
Where are they holding the wake? I'm supposed to be one of the pallbearers.
Show the gentleman to the chapel. Pew number 3. This way, sir. He leads Mulligan past the organ toward the black paneled wall where there is no evidence of a door. The organist, without missing a note in his playing, reaches over to the end of the keyboard and pulls out a stop. One of the panels slides open and there's a blast of music from the chapel. It's jazz, and it's Sweet Georgia Brown. Mulligan rears back momentarily, then follows the funeral director in. The organist pushes the stop in again, and the panel slides shut. Grandma must have been quite a person because she left a lot of condoling friends behind, and they are holding a very lively wake. The chapel is jumping. A small band is blaring out Sweet Georgia Brown. On the stamp-sized dance floor, 6 girls in abbreviated costumes are doing a frenetic Charleston. Crowded around the small tables, mourners in black armbands are drowning their sorrows in whatever drink out of their coffee cups.
Well, if you gotta go, this is the way to do it.
The funeral director leads Mulligan to a table next to the bandstand. As he moves off, a waiter comes up.
What'll it be, sir?
Booze.
Sorry, sir, we only serve coffee.
Coffee.
Scotch coffee, Canadian coffee, sour mash coffee.
Make it scotch, a Dimitis with a little soda on the side. Haven't you got another? Not so close to the band. How about that one?
Sorry, sir, that's reserved for members of the immediate family.
He winks and goes off. Mulligan scans the room. From a side door comes Spats Columbo, followed by the 4 horsemen. They walk cockily toward the table reserved for the immediate family. A drunk, standing with a cup of booze in his hand, is in their way. Columbo pushes him aside and the contents of the cup slop over. Columbo freezes in tracks, glances at his feet, and the other 4 men have also stopped and stare in the same direction, horrified. Spats Columbo's immaculate spats are no longer immaculate. There is a whiskey stain on one of them. Columbo throws his henchmen a sharp look. They grab the offending drunk and hustle him toward the exit.
Hey, I want another cup of coffee. I want another cup of coffee.
Columbo proceeds toward the table, seats himself, and takes a handkerchief out of his breast pocket and meticulously mops the moist spout. His 4 companions, their mission accomplished, join him at the table. Mulligan, who has been studying Columbo, consults his wristwatch. The waiter comes up with his order, a Dimitis half full of scotch, and a split of club soda.
Better bring the check now in case the joint gets raided.
Who's gonna raid a funeral?
Some people got no respect for the dead.
The waiter moves off. Mulligan sips from the cup and winces and takes a cigar out of his pocket and starts to light it. His eyes wander to the chorus girls. The girls have gone into a tap dance. The captain of the chorus looks toward the bandstand, grins, and winks at Joe, the saxophone player. He winks back. Jerry, who is thumping the bass fiddle behind him, leans forward and taps Joe on the shoulder.
Say, Joe, tonight's the night, isn't it?
I'll say.
I mean, we get paid tonight, don't we?
Yeah, why?
Because I lost a filling in my back tooth. I got to go to the dentist tomorrow.
Dentist? We've been out of work for 4 months, and you want to blow your first week's pay on teeth?
It's just a little inlay. It doesn't even have to be gold.
How can you be so selfish? We owe back rent. We're in for $80, $90 Moe's Delicatessen. We're being sued by 3 Chinese lawyers because our check bounced at the laundry. We even borrowed money from every girl in the line.
You're right, Joe.
Of course I am.
First thing tomorrow, we're going to pay everybody a little something on account.
No, we're not.
We're not?
First thing tomorrow, we're going out to the dog track and put the whole bundle on Grease Lightning.
You're going to bet my money on a dog?
He's a shoo-in. I got the word from Max the waiter. His brother-in-law is the electrician who wires the rabbit.
What are you giving me with the rabbit?
Look at these odds. 10 to 1. If he wins, we can pay everybody.
But suppose he loses.
What are you worried about? This job is going to last a long time.
Let's suppose it doesn't.
Jerry boy, why do you have to paint everything so black? Suppose you get hit by a truck. Suppose the stock market crashes.
Jerry, slapping the vase, is no longer listening. His eyes have strayed to Mulligan, sitting at his table, puffing on the cigar. It isn't drawing too well. Mulligan reaches under his coat and unpins his Department of Justice badge from his vest. Using the pin of the shining badge, he pokes a hole in the wet of the cigar. Jerry has stopped playing and is watching Mulligan's operation with morbid fascination. Joe, completely unaware, continues talking.
Suppose Mary Pickford divorces Douglas Fairbanks.
Hey, Joe,
Suppose Lake Michigan overflows.
don't look now, but the whole town is underwater.
He nods toward Mulligan and Joe looks off. Then without a word, they both start packing their instruments. Mulligan pins the badge back on and checks his wristwatch.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The door from the funeral parlor, right on the dot, a pair of police axes smash through the door. Instant pandemonium breaks loose in the speakeasy. Music stops, women scream, customers, chorus girls, waiters scramble towards the side doors, but they too are splintering under the assault of the police axes. The crowd falls back, milling around frantically. Mulligan stands up, cups his hands to his mouth, and roars at the top of his voice.
All right, everybody, this is a raid. I'm a federal agent and you're all under arrest.
The police come streaming through the splintered doors, and carrying in on the tide is the drunk, who is just tossed out, reeling unsteadily and waving his empty coffee cup.
I want another cup of coffee.
The police start rounding up the customers and employees, herding them towards the exits. On the bandstand, Joe and Jerry have packed their instruments and are starting to fight their way through. Mulligan and a couple of policemen in tow come up to Spatz and his henchmen, sitting calmly at their table with 5 glasses of white liquid in front of them.
Okay, Spats, the services are over. Let's go.
Go where?
A little country club we run for retired bootleggers. I'm going to put your name for membership.
I never joined nothing.
You'll like it there. I'll have the prison tailor fit you with a pair of special spats, stripped.
Big
Sure.
joke. Who's the rap this time?
Explaining people with coffee. 86 proof.
Me? I'm just a customer here.
Come on, Spats. We know you own this joint. Mozzarella's just fronting for you.
Mozzarella? Never heard of him.
We got different information.
From who? Toothpick Charlie, maybe?
Toothpick Charlie, never heard of him.
Buttermilk.
All right, on your feet.
You're wasting the taxpayers' money.
If you want to, you can call your lawyer.
These are my lawyers, all Harvard men.
Mulligan and the 2 policemen lead Spatz and his Harvard men out. Outside the funeral parlor, policemen are under the supervision of the captain and herding customers into a paddy wagon. Fighting his way out of the wagon is our drunk, waving his coffee cup in the air.
I want another cup of coffee.
He staggers into the alley toward the side entrance of the speakeasy with the camera moving after him. Through the smashed up side door, policemen are ushering more customers and the dancing girls into the car. Camera moves up toward a fire escape on the 2nd floor. Joe and Jerry, carrying their instruments and overcoats, have climbed through a window and onto the fire escape and are inspecting the scene below. The shot-up hearse is parked directly beneath them. Stealthily, they climb down the ladder and drop to the roof of the hearse. Then they scramble over the radiator and steal down the alley away from the street. They stop in the shadows to put on their coats.
Well, that solves one problem. We don't have to worry about who to pay first.
Why? I'm thinking.
Of course, the landlady's going to lock us out. Mo said no more knockworks on credit, and we can't borrow any more from the girls because they're on their way to jail.
Shut up, will you? I wonder how much Sam the bookie will give up for our overcoats.
Sam the bookie, nothing doing. You're not putting my overcoat on that dog.
I told you, it's a sure thing.
But we'll freeze. It's below 0. We'll catch pneumonia.
Look, stupid. He's 10-1. Tomorrow we'll have over 20 overcoats.
Dissolved to a Chicago street the next day. The street is covered with snow. Joe and Jerry, without overcoats, the collars of their tuxedos turned up against the bitter cold, come down the steps of the elevated carrying their instruments. The only thing that keeps Jerry from freezing is that he is boiling over inside. As they proceed along the sidewalk, Jerry finally can't hold it anymore.
Greased lightning. Why do I listen to you? I gotta have my head examined.
I thought you weren't talking to me.
Look at the bull fiddle. It's dressed warmer than I am.
They come up to a building in front of which are gathered several small groups of shivering musicians, all equipped with instruments. Joe and Jerry exchange frozen waves with their colleagues and start through the entrance. The corridor of a music building. Joe moves down the corridor and Jerry tagging along grimly beside him. Other job-seeking musicians mill around, a melange of musical sounds and singing voices issued from various offices. Joe and Jerry come up to a door marked Keynote Musical Agency, bands, soloists, and singers. Joe opens the door, revealing a crummy office with a secretary behind a desk.
Anything today?
Nothing.
Thank you.
Joe shuts the door and they shuffle along to the next agency, which is marked Jules Stein, Music Corporation of America. Joe opens the door and there is, like the other office, except a little crummier. There's a secretary behind the desk.
Anything today?
Nothing.
Thank you.
He opens the door of the next agency, Sig Polikoff, Band of For All Occasions. There's the usual secretary behind the usual desk, and her name is Nellie. She is a brunette, somewhat past her prime, but still attractive.
Anything today?
Oh, it's you. You got a lot of nerve.
Thank you.
Joe, come back here. Joe stops in his tracks with a resigned shrug to Jerry. He opens the door again, and the two men start in. Beside Nellie, there is another secretary, pecking away at a typewriter. Nellie's face is grim as Joe and Jerry come up.
Now look, Nellie, if it's about last Saturday night, I can explain everything.
What a heel. I spent $4 to get my hair marceled. I buy me a new negligee. I bake him a great big pizza pie. And where were you?
Yeah, where were you?
With you.
With me?
Don't you remember? He has this bad tooth. It got impacted. The whole jaw swelled up.
Did? Boy, did it ever.
So I had to rush him to the hospital and give him a transfusion. Right?
Right, we had the same blood type.
Type O.
Oh,
Nellie, baby, I'll make it up to you.
making it up pretty good so far.
In a minute we get a job, I'm going to take you out to the swellest restaurant.
How about it, Nellie? Has Poliakoff got anything for us? We're desperate.
Well, it just so happens he is looking for a bass and a sax, right?
Right.
Did you hear that, Joe?
What's the job?
It's 3 weeks in Florida.
Florida.
The Seminola Ritz in Miami, transportation and all expenses paid.
Isn't she a bit of terrific? Come on, let's talk to Poliakoff.
You better wait a minute, boys. He's got some people in there with him. In Polyakov's inner office, the room is small and cluttered, and the walls are covered with photographs of Polyakov's clients, bands, vocalists, trios, radio personalities. Sitting beside the desk and speaking urgently into the phone is Sig Polyakov, a gruff, likable man in his 50s. Pacing up and down on the other side of the desk is Sweet Sue, flashily dressed broad who has seen 30 summers and a few hard winters. As she paces, she nervously flips a large white pill from one hand to the other. Slouched in a chair is Beanstalk, a somewhat prissy man of 40, wearing thick glasses. He has a card file on his lap and is thumbing through it.
Look, lads, it's 3 weeks in Florida. Sweet Sue and her society, syncopators, they need a couple of girls on sax and bass. What do you mean? Who is she? Sig Polikoff? I got a job for you. Glads, are you? Glads, are you there? Played for 112 hours at a marathon dance, and now she's in bed with a nervous collapse.
Tell her to move over. She's poured herself a glass.
What about Cora Jackson? Oh, sorry.
Who's taking Beanstalk?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
What about Cora Jackson?
The last I heard, she was playing with the Salvation Army. Yet Drexel 9044.
Sue has wandered over to one of the framed photos on the wall. It shows Sue posed in front of her band. 16 girls, all blonde, all in identical gowns. On the drum, it says Sweet Sue and her Society Syncopators. Those idiot broads. Here we all are packed to go to Miami. And what happens? The saxophone runs off with a Bible salesman and the bass fiddle gets herself pregnant. Gotta fire you, Beanstalk.
Me? I'm the manager of the band, not the night watchman.
Hello, let me talk to Basie Malone. What's she doing in Philadelphia on the level? Basie let her hair grow and is playing with Stokowski.
Black bottom Bessie.
Shiplet Schmidt dears to the feather harmonic.
How about Rosemary Schultz?
Did you hear? She slashed her wrist with Valentino when Valentino died.
We might as well all slash our wrists if we don't round up 2 dames by this evening. She picks up her handbag. Beanstalk rises, takes his glasses off, and puts them in his pocket.
Look, Sig, you know the kind of girls we need. We don't care where you find them. Just get them on that train by 8 o'clock.
B. Nuklon, trust Politikov. The moment anything turns up, I'll give you a little tingle.
Bye, Sig. Wonder if I have room for another ulcer. Beanstalk opens the door and follows Sue into the outer office. Joe and Jerry, who have been bidding their time outside, slip in and shut the door after them.
Hey, Sig, can we talk to you?
Nellie, get me long distance. What is it?
It's about the Florida job.
The Florida job.
Nellie told us about it.
We're not too late, are we?
What are you? A couple of comedians? Get out of here. Long distance? Get me the William Morris Agency in New York.
You need a bass and a sax, don't you?
The instruments are right, but you are not. I want to speak to Mr. Morris.
What's wrong with
What's
that?
wrong with us?
You're the wrong shape. Goodbye.
The wrong shape? You looking for hunchbacks or something?
It's not the backs that worry me.
What kind of band is this anyway?
You got to be under 25.
We could pass for that.
You got to be blonde.
We could dye our hair.
And you got to be girls.
We could.
No, we couldn't.
William Morris.
You mean it's a girls' band?
Yeah, that's what he means. Good old Nellie. I ought to wring her neck.
Yes, I'm holding on.
Wait a minute, Joe. Let's talk this over. Why couldn't we do it? Last year when we played in that gypsy tea room, we wore gold earrings. And you remember when we booked us in that Hawaiian band? Grass skirts.
What's with him? He drinks?
No, he ain't been eating so good either. He's got an empty stomach and it's going to his head.
But Joe, 3 weeks in Florida, we could borrow some clothes from the girls in the chorus.
You flipped your wig.
Now you're talking. We pick up a couple of secondhand wigs, a little padding here and there, call ourselves Josephine and Geraldine.
Josephine and Geraldine? Come on.
He drags Jerry toward the door.
Look, if you boys want to pick up a little money tonight at the University of Illinois, they are having, you should excuse the expression, a St. Valentine's dance.
We'll take it.
You got it. It's $6 a man. Be on the campus in Urbana at 8 o'clock.
All the way to Urbana for a one-night stand?
It's $12. We can get one of the overcoats out of Hawk.
Hello, Mr. Morris. This is Politikov in Chicago. Say, you wouldn't have a couple of girl musicians available? A sax player and a bass?
Look, if William Morris doesn't come through.
Come on, Geraldine.
He pulls him out of the office. In the outer office, Joe leads Jerry out.
100 miles, Joe. It's snowing. How are we going to get there?
I'll think of something. Don't crowd me.
How'd it go, girls?
We ought to wring your neck.
Please, Jerry. That's no way to talk. Nellie, baby, what are you doing tonight?
Why?
Because I got some plans.
I'm not doing anything. I just thought I'd go home and have some cold pizza.
And you'll be in all evening?
Yes, Joe.
Good, then he won't need your car.
Like, why you? Joe silences her protests with a kiss, and Jerry shakes his head with mock admiration.
Isn't he a bit of terrific?
Cut to Clark Street. Joe and Jerry, carrying their instruments, are coming along the snow-covered sidewalk toward a garage entrance, above which is a sign reading Charlie's Garage. Their shoulders are hunched up against the cold.
That had 3 weeks in Florida, all expenses paid, lying around in the sun, palm trees, frying fish.
Knock it off, will you?
They step over the chain blocking the entrance and start into the garage. There are rows of parked cars, a lube rack, and a gas pump. Against the wall, under a naked electric light bulb hanging from a cord, 5 men are playing stud poker. A couple of mechanics in grease-stained coveralls are watching the game. The dealer is Toothpick Charlie, the inevitable toothpick in his mouth.
King high, pair of bullets, possible starlight, possible nothing, pair of eights.
Joe and Jerry come in from the street. One of the mechanics notices them and nudges Toothpick Charlie. Charlie sees the instrument cases and leaps to his feet, drawing a gun from his shoulder holster. The other 4 players also jump up, pulling their guns, level them at Joe and Jerry.
All right, you two, drop them.
Drop what?
Came to pick up a car.
Oh, yeah?
Nellie Weinmeyer's car.
Musicians.
Wise guys. Let's go. Pair of ace bets.
The other players resume their seats, and Joe and Jerry follow the mechanic toward the parked cars.
It's a 25 Hut Mobile Coupe, green.
The mechanic leads them to the car, which is parked near the gas pump.
Need some gas?
Yeah, like about 40 cents worth.
The mechanic unscrews the cap of gas and inserts the rubber hose from the pump.
Put it on Miss Waymer's bill.
Why not? And while you're at it, fill her up.
From the street outside comes the loud squeal of tires. Jerry glances off casually toward the entrance. A black Duesenberg bursts the chain hanging across the street entrance and skids into the garage and takes to a screeching stop some 10 feet from the card players. Toothpick Charlie and his cronies leap up and reach for their guns. They're too late. 4 men have scrambled out of the car, 2 armed with submachine guns, the other 2 with sawed-off shotguns. We recognize them as Spant Columbo's henchmen.
All right, everybody's hands up and face the wall.
The frightened poker players start to obey. Jerry is watching the scene open-mouthed. Joe grabs his shoulder and pulls him down behind the hub mobile. The second henchman notices the mechanic standing petrified beside the gas pump.
Hey, join us.
Mechanic raises his hands, moves reluctantly toward the 6 men lined up against the wall.
Okay, boss.
A pair of men's feet step down from the limousine. They are encased in immaculate spats. Jerry, crouching behind the hub mobile with Joe, grabs his arm.
Columbo.
Joe claps his hand over Jerry's mouth, and Spats Columbo joins his armed henchmen, who are covering the 7 men facing the wall with their hands up.
Hello, Charlie. Long time no see.
What is it, Spats? What do you want here?
Just dropped in to pay my respects.
You don't owe me no nothing.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. You were nice enough to recommend my mortuary to some of your friends.
He has strolled over to the table and picks up the deck of cards, starts to deal out another round to the abandoned poker hands.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So now I got all these coffins on my hands, and I hate to see them go to waste.
Honest, Spats, I had nothing to do with it.
Spats steals Toothpick Charlie's 5th card, then turns up the whole card.
Too bad, Charlie. You would have had 3 8s. Goodbye, Charlie.
No, Spats! No, no, no!
Spats
No!
knows, and the 2 machine gunners raise their weapons, start to fire methodically at their off-scene victims. Behind the hub mobile, Jerry screws his eyes shut painfully as the steady chatter of bullets continues.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
The machine guns stop firing. There's a moment's silence, and suddenly The bass tank of the hubmobile overflows, and the rubber hose from the pump whips out, gushing gasoline over the floor. Spats and his henchmen, hearing the sound, whirl around and catch sight of Joe and Jerry squatting behind the car.
All right, come on out of there.
Joe and Jerry emerge quakingly from behind the hubmobile. They try to raise their hands, but find this rather difficult to manage. While holding on to their instruments, Jerry darts a horrified glance toward the foot of the wall.
We didn't see anything, did we?
Oh, nothing. Besides, it's none of our business if you guys want to knock each other off.
Don't I know you two from somewhere?
We're just a couple of musicians. We come to pick up a car, Nellie Weinmeyer's car. There's a dance tonight. Come on, Jerry.
Wait a minute. Where do you think you're going?
To Urbana. It's 100 miles.
You ain't going nowhere.
We're not?
The only way you'll get to Urbana is feet first.
During this, one of the bodies, huddled grotesquely against the foot of the wall, begins to stir. It is Toothpick Charlie. He is covered with blood, but there is still a spark of life in him, and his toothpick is still clutched between his teeth. Painfully, he starts to worm his way across the floor toward a phone on a wooden shelf. Spats and his gang, facing Joe and Jerry, are not aware of Charlie's activity.
I don't like no witnesses.
We won't breathe a word.
You won't breathe nothing, not even air.
He motions lazily to the second henchman. The henchman slowly level his machine gun at Joe and Jerry, who stand frozen. At that very moment, Toothpick Charlie reaches up for the phone, but he is too weak to hold on, and the receiver drops from his limp hand and clatters to the asphalt floor. Instantly, Spats and his henchmen wheel around. Spats grabs the machine gun from the second henchman and perforates what is left of Charlie with a hail of lead. Toothpick Charlie crumbles in a heap. He is quite dead. Spats, bespattered foot, comes into shot, disdainfully kicks the toothpick out of Charlie's mouth. Joe and Jerry have taken advantage of this momentary diversion. Like scalded jackasses, they are sprinting towards the entrance, hanging on to their instruments. Spats and his boys pivot and see the two running. They let go with a salvo of shots, just as Joe and Jerry scoot through the garage door and disappear down the street. A couple of henchmen start after them. There is the sound of an approaching police siren.
Come on, let's blow. We'll take care of those guys later.
They all pile into the black Duesenberg. The driver shifts into reverse, and the car shoots backward out of the garage. In the alley, Joe and Jerry come skidding around the corner from Clark Street, race down the snow-covered alley. In BG, there is the sound of squealing tires and police sirens.
I think they got me.
They got the bull fiddle.
You don't see any blood?
Not yet. But if those guys catch us, there'll be blood all over. Type O.
They run faster.
Where are we running, Joe?
As far away as possible.
That's not far enough. You don't know those guys, but they know us. Every hood in Chicago will be looking for us.
They reach the end of the alley. A couple of motorcycle policemen, their sirens wailing, flash by in the direction of the garage. The word must have spread because the pedestrians are also running in the same direction. Joe stops and looks around quickly, and seeing a cigar store on the corner, drags Jerry inside. In the store, Joe hurries to a wall telephone near the entrance. Jerry follows breathlessly.
Got a nickel?
He sets his case down and, taking a coin from Jerry, inserts it into the slot.
You gonna call the police?
The police? We'd never live to testify. Not against Spats Columbo. Wabash 1098.
We gotta get out of town. Maybe we ought to go Beards.
We are going out of town, but we're going to shave.
Shave? At a time like this? Those guys have machine guns. They're gonna blast our heads off, and you wanna shave?
Shave our legs, stupid. Hello, Mr. Polyakov. I understand you're looking for a couple of girl musicians.
Jerry gets it. Cut to a Chicago railroad platform at night. Two pairs of high-heeled shoes, unusually large in size, are hurrying along the platform. The camera follows them and pans up gradually, revealing rather hefty legs in rolled stockings, short dresses, and coats with cheap fur pieces, and rakish cloche hats. One of the pair carries a saxophone case, the other a bull fiddle case, and each has a Gladstone bag. A train with steam up is loading for departure, and red-cap passengers bagging carts.
Florida Limited, leaving on track 7 for Washington, Charleston, Savannah, Jacksonville, and Miami. All aboard, all aboard.
Our two passengers accelerate their pace, but evidently they are not too adept at navigating in high heels. Suddenly, the one with the bull fiddle twists her ankle, or we should say his ankle, because it's Jerry. He stops and faces his girlfriend, Joe.
How can they walk on these things? How do they keep their balance?
Must be the way their weight is distributed. Come on.
As they proceed along the platform, a gust of wind sends their skirts billowing. Jerry stops again and pulls his skirt down.
And it's so drafty. They must be catching colds all the time.
Quit stalling. We'll miss the train.
I feel so naked, like everybody's looking at me.
With those legs, you crazy?
They are now approaching the Pullman car, reserved for the girls' orchestra. Girl musicians with instruments and luggage are boarding the car, supervised by Sweet Sue and Beanstalk.
It's no use. We'll never get away with it, Joe.
The name is Josephine, and it was your idea in the first place.
A member of the girls' band comes hurrying past them carrying a valise and ukulele case. Her name is Sugar. What can we say about Sugar except that she is the dream girl of every red-blooded American male who ever read College Humor? As she undulates past them, Jerry looks after her with dismay.
Oh, we kidding? Look at that. Look how she moves. It's like Jello on springs. They must have some sort of a built-in motor. I tell you, it's a whole different sex.
What are you afraid of? Nobody's asking you to have a baby. This is just to get out of town.
The minute we hit Florida, we'll blow this setup.
This time, I'm not going to let you talk me into something that...
A newsboy approaches along the platform peddling his papers.
Extra, extra, 7 slaughtered in North Side Garage. Fear blood aftermath.
You talk me into it. Come on, Josephine.
Atta girl, Geraldine.
They hurry toward the Pullman car, imitating the Jello on Springs movement as well as they can. At the Pullman car, Sue and Beanstalk are checking in the girl musicians as they're boarding. Mary Lou, Rosella, okay, Dolores, gotta move on. How's your back, Olga?
Clarinet, drums, trumpet, trombone.
Joe and Jerry come mincing up.
Well, here we are.
You two from the Polyakoff agency?
Yes, we're the new girls.
Brand new.
This is our manager, Mr. Beanstalk. I'm Sweet Sue.
My name is Josephine.
And I'm Daphne.
This is out of left field. Joe throws him a sharp look and Jerry smiles back.
Saxophone, bass. My glad to see you girls. You saved our lives.
Likewise, I'm sure.
Where did you girls play before?
Oh, here and there and around.
We spent 3 years at the Sheboygan Conservatory of Music.
You're in verse 7 and 7A.
Thank you ever so.
You're welcome.
It's entirely mutual.
Joe has boarded the car. As Jerry starts up the stairs, he stumbles. Beanstalk helps him up with a little pat on the behind.
Upsy daisy.
Fresh.
Joe jerks him up into the vestibule before this nonsense gets out of hand.
Looks like Polyakoff came through with a couple of real ladies.
Better to the other girls to watch their language.
She and Beanstalk mount the step of the Pullman. The porter picks up the yellow footstep, hops aboard as the train starts moving. In the Pullman car, as Joe and Jerry come in from the vestibule, Joe grabs Jerry, holds him against the baggage rack.
Daphne?
I never did like the name Geraldine.
Sue and Beanstalk appear from the vestibule, and Joe lets go of Jerry, and they move down the aisle into the Pullman car proper. The girl musicians are all there, except for Sugar. They are removing their coats and settling themselves in their seats, putting away their instruments. They all are blonde. They all are young, and most of them are pretty. They look like a band of angels. But don't you believe it?
Hello, everybody. I'm the bass fiddle. Just call me Daphne.
I'm Josephine, sax.
Welcome to no man's land. You'll be sorry.
Sorry. Take your corsets off and spread out.
Oh, I never wear one.
Don't you bulge?
Oh, no, I have the most divine little seamstress that comes in once a month. And my dear, she's so inexpensive.
On Daphne.
Say, kids, have you heard the one about the girl tuba player that was stranded on a desert island with a one-legged jockey?
No, how does it go?
Now cut that out, girls. None of that rough talk. They went to a conservatory.
Joe and Jerry have reached their seats and are taking off their coats.
That talent, this is like falling into a tub of butter.
Watch it, Daphne.
As a kid, I used to have a dream. I was locked up in this pastry shop overnight with all kinds of goodies around. Jelly rolls and mocha eclairs and sponge cake and Boston cream pie and cherry tarts.
Look, stupid. No butter and no pastry. We're on a diet.
Jerry starts to hang his coat across a cord running above the window.
Not there. That's the emergency brake.
Now you've done it.
Done what?
Tore off one of my chests.
You better go fix it.
You better come help me.
Jerry leads the way toward the restrooms, which are just beyond their seats. Instinctively, he heads for one marked men. Joe grabs him and steers him back toward the one marked women.
This way, Daphne.
Now you tore the other one.
Joe opens the curtain and propels him inside. In the women's lounge, there's another customer there. It's Sugar. She has one leg up on the leather settee. Her skirt is slightly raised, and she is about to remove a small silver flask tucked under her garter. As Jerry and Joe come in, she guiltily pulls her skirt down.
Oh,
Terribly sorry.
that's all right. I was afraid it was Sweet Sue. You won't tell anybody, will you?
Tell what?
Well, if they catch me once more, they'll boot me out of the band. Are you the replacement for the bass and the sax?
That's us. I'm Daphne, and this is Josephine.
I'm Sugar Cane. I changed it. It used to be Sugar Kowalczyk.
Polish?
Yes, I come from a very musical family. My mother is a piano teacher, and my father, well, he was a conductor.
Where did he conduct?
On the Baltimore in Ohio.
Oh,
I play the ukulele, and I sing too.
He sings too.
I don't really have much of a voice, but then again, it's not much of a band either. I'm only with him because I'm running away.
running away from what?
Don't get me started on that. Want a drink? It's bourbon.
We'll take a rain check.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to think I'm a drinker. I can stop anytime I want to. Only I don't want to, especially when I'm blue.
We understand.
All the girls drink, but I'm the only one that gets caught. That's the story of my life. I always get the fuzzy end of the lollipop. I'ma seem straight.
I'll say.
See you around, girls.
Hi, Sugar. We've been playing with the wrong bands.
Down, Daphne.
How about the shape of that liquor cabinet?
Joe spins him around, unbuttoning the back of his dress, and starts to fix the slipped brassiere.
Forget it. One false move, and they'll toss us off the train. There will be the police, and the papers, and the mob in Chicago.
Boy, would I like to borrow a cup of that sugar.
Look, no butter, no pastry, and no sugar.
You tore it again.
Dissolved to the locomotive wheels at night, the wheels are pounding along the track, accompanied by a spirited rendition of Running Wild. In the car, at one end of the car, Sweet Sue and her society syncopators are beating out Running Wild. It is a special rehearsal to break in the two new girls. Josephine and Daphne, the other girls, including Sugar on the ukulele, are really swinging. But Joe and Jerry are playing in a dainty, ultra-refined manner, so as not to give themselves away. Sue, who is conducting from the aisle, wraps her baton against the seat. The girls stop playing. Hey, Sheboygan, you two. What was your last job? Playing square dances?
No, funerals.
Would you mind rejoining the living? Goose it up a little.
We'll try.
How did those holes in your fiddle get there?
Oh, those, I don't know. Mice?
We got it secondhand.
All right, let's take it from the top and put a little heat under it, will you? Ba-dum-bum. She brings the baton down and the girls start playing again. This time, Joe and Jerry give it both knees. Joe going for a wild ride on the sax and Jerry slapping and twirling the pace like a girl possessed. Sue cocks her eyebrows, amazed by the happiness of the two conservatory cats. Now it's time for Sugar's solo. Holding onto the bull fiddle, Jerry leans forward to get a better view of Sugar's backfield in motion. As Sugar shimmies through the number, the hidden flask slips from under her garter and falls to the floor with a clank. She freezes and Sue wraps her baton furiously against the seat. Beanstalk!
Yes. So what is it?
I thought I made it clear I don't want any drinking in this outfit.
All right, girls. Who does this belong to? Come on now, speak up. Sugar, I warned you.
Please, Mr. Beanstalk.
This is the last straw. In Kansas City, you were smuggling liquor in a shampoo bottle. Before that, I caught you with a pint in your ukulele.
Pardon me, Mr. Beanstalk. Can I have my flask back?
Sure. Pack your things, and the next station we come to. Your flask?
Uh-huh. It's a little bourbon.
Give me that.
He grabs the flask and Sugar is looking at Jerry Lee gratefully. Joe glares at Jerry, ready to hit him with the saxophone. Didn't you girls say you went to a conservatory?
Yes, for a whole year.
I thought you said 3 years.
We got time off for good behavior.
There are 2 things I will not put up with during working hours. One is liquor, the other one is men.
Men?
Oh, you don't have to worry about that.
We would be caught dead with men, those rough, hairy beasts with 8 hands. They all want just one thing from a girl.
I beg your pardon?
All right, girls, from the top again. The society syncopators wade into running wild. Sugar, strumming the ukulele, smiles warmly at Daphne, a true blue pal. Daphne smiles back, his mouth watering a little like a kid in a pastry shop. Dissolved to the Pullman car later that night. The berths are made up and the girls are getting ready for bed. Joe in pajamas is standing in the aisle beside lower 7, draping his dress neatly on a hanger. Jerry, in a nightgown, is lying in the upper with the curtains open, watching the broads go by. Girls in negligees and pajamas and nightgowns are scurrying with their wash kits in and out of the ladies' room, climbing into lowers and uppers.
Good night, Mary Lou. Dolores, dear, sleep tight. Nighty-night, Emily.
Toodaloo.
How about that toodaloo?
Steady, boy. Just keep telling yourself you're a girl.
I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
Rosella and Olga come bouncing out of the ladies' room.
Get a load of that rhythm section. I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
His eyes stray down the aisle. In upper 2, Sugar is getting ready for bed. All Jerry can see is her legs dangling out of the berth as she removes her stockings. But that's all the identification Jerry needs.
Good night, Sugar.
Good night, honey.
Honey, she called me honey.
Without a word, Joe takes the ladder leaning against Jerry's berth and slides it under the lower.
What are you doing?
I just want to make sure that honey stays in the hive. There will be no buzzing around tonight.
Suppose I gotta go, like for a drink of water.
Fight it.
Suppose I lose. Suppose it's an emergency.
Then pull the emergency brake.
Sitting on the edge of the lower 1, ready for bed, is Sue. She is looking off intently toward Joe and Jerry, flipping a stomach pill in one hand and holding a paper cup of water in the other. She turns to Beanstalk. You know, Beanstalk, there's something funny about those 2 new girls.
Funny? In what way?
I don't know, but I can feel it right here. That's one good thing about ulcers. It's like burglar alarm going off inside of you.
All right, Sue, you watch your ulcers. I'll watch those 2. Okay, Everybody settle down and go to bed. Good night, girls.
The last few girls climb into their berths and lights are being extinguished. Joe, standing outside berth 7, starts to close the curtains on Jerry's berth.
Good night, Daphne.
Josephine.
Joe closes the curtain and Jerry in the upper extinguishes the light. He settles himself back on the pillow and closes his eyes.
I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I wish I was dead. I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
Later that night, there are just a few dim lights illuminating the aisle. Everybody seems to be asleep. All is quiet, except for Beanstalk steadily snoring in lower 2. After a moment, the curtains of upper 2 open, and Sugar peeks out cautiously. She's wearing a negligee over her nightie. Seeing that all is clear, she slips quietly down the ladder and tiptoes down the aisle. She arrives at 7, finding no ladder there, takes one from across the aisle, and leans it against Jerry's berth and climbs up. Jerry is asleep, and the curtains part, and Sugar leans in.
Daphne.
She taps his shoulder. Jerry sits bolt upright and hits his head against the top of the berth.
Oh, Sugar.
I wanted to thank you for covering me. You're a real pal.
I just think us girls should stick together.
If it hadn't been for you, they would have kicked me off the train. I'd be out there in the middle of nowhere, sitting on my ukulele.
It must be freezing outside when I think of you and your poor ukulele.
If there's anything I can ever do for you.
Oh, I can think of a million things.
Sugar sees something in the aisle and quickly climbs into the berth beside Jerry.
And that's one of them.
Shh, sweet Sue.
Sue is in a wrapper and padding sleepily down the aisle toward the ladies' room. Back in 7, Sugar turns conspiratorially to Jerry.
I don't want her to know we're in cahoots.
We won't tell anybody, not even Josephine.
I better stay here until she goes back to sleep.
Stay as long as you'd like.
I'm not crowding you, am I?
No, it's nice and cozy.
You know, when I was a little girl, on cold nights like this, I used to crawl into bed with my sister. We'd cuddle up under the covers and pretend we were lost in a dark cave and we were trying to find a way out.
Interesting.
Anything wrong?
No, no.
Why, you poor thing. You're trembling all over.
That's ridiculous.
And your head is hot.
That's ridiculous.
And you've got cold feet.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Let me warm them a little. Isn't that better?
Girl, I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
What'd you say?
Oh, I'm a very sick girl.
Maybe I better go before I catch something.
That's sick.
Well, I have very low resistance.
Look, Sugar, if you feel you're coming down with something, the best thing is a shot of whiskey.
You got some?
I know where to get some. Don't move.
He climbs across her and, opening the curtains, leans all the way over the edge of the upper berth and down toward the berth below. In 7, Joe is asleep, facing the window. The curtains part and Jerry, dangling upside down, reaches toward the suitcase at the foot of the berth. He raises the lid and rummages around till he finds a bottle of bourbon. As he takes it out, Joe stirs. Jerry freezes, raises the bottle up, and ready to clunk Joe if he wakes up. Joe turns over and settles back to sleep, and Jerry swings his body through the curtains. Jerry has the bottle clutched in his hand and is hanging upside down, while Sugar, in the elbow berth, holds on to his legs. As Jerry tries to raise himself back up, he slips over to Sugar's grasp and sprawls in the aisle. He lies absolutely still, afraid that Joe might have heard him.
You all right?
I'm fine.
How's the bottle?
Half full.
He hands it up to her, and as the curtains of upper 4 part, and Dolores, who has been awakened by the fall, peeks out.
You better get some cups.
Jerry pads over to the water fountain beside the restrooms. He punches out a couple of paper cups from the dispense and flits back to berth 7 and scurries up the ladder. Dolores watching all of this with great interest. In 7, Sugar has already opened the bottle.
I tell you, this is the only way to travel.
You better put on the lights. I can't see what I'm doing.
No, no lights. We don't want anyone to know we're having a party.
I may spill something.
Oh, spill it. Spills, thrills, laughs, games. This may even turn out to be a surprise party.
Ooh, what's the surprise?
Not yet.
When?
Better have a drink first.
Here, this'll put hair on your chest.
No fair guessing.
They drink, the curtains open, and it's Dolores standing on the ladder below, sticking her head in. Is this a private clam bake or can anybody join in?
It's private. Go away.
Say, Dolores, you still got that bottle of vermouth?
Sure.
Who needs vermouth?
We have some bourbons. Let's make Manhattans.
Okay.
Manhattans this time of night?
And bring the cocktail shaker.
Oh, sugar, you're going to spoil my surprise.
Dolores has crossed the aisle and is getting a foot up on lower 4, reaching out for her berth for the vermouth. The curtains of lower 4 open and Mary Lou sticks her head out.
What's up?
Party in upper 7.
Ooh, I got some cheese and crackers.
And get a corkscrew.
Party in upper 7. Got a corkscrew?
No, but Stella does.
Get some cups.
Rosella hurries toward the water fountain while Mary Lou gets Stella and the corkscrew out of bed. Rapidly, the whole Pullman car springs into action. As silent as mice, the girls slip out of their berths, armed with various provisions. Their nighties billowing, they scuttle down the aisle and up the ladder into upper 7. In upper 7, the party is building rapidly as the mice pile in with their contributions. Here's the vermouth.
Some crackers and cheese.
Crackers.
What about a bottle of Southern Comfort?
Please, girls, this is a private party, a party for 2. Oh, wait, no more room. Shh, the neighbor's downstairs. You'll wake up Josephine. Please, no crackers in bed. Go someplace else. Form your own party. Be careful with that corkscrew. Sugar, where are you, Sugar?
Sugar is greeting Olga, who has climbed into the berth clutching a hot water bottle.
Here's the cocktail shaker.
Sugar starts measuring bourbon and vermouth into it.
Easy on the vermouth.
Anybody for
We only had
salami?
We only had some ice.
Pass the peanut butter.
Anybody for salami?
13 girls in a berth, that's bad luck. 12 of you will have to get out. Please, girls, no more food. I'll have ants in the morning.
In lower 7, Joe is stirring restlessly while subdued noises float down from the party upstairs. The curtains part and Emily sticks her head in and shakes Joe.
Hey, you got any maraschino cherries on you? Oh, never mind.
She disappears and Joe starts to close his eyes, then sips up with a jolt.
Maraschino cherries.
Slowly, he becomes aware of the sounds of revelry above, his eyes wide as he sees a girl's bare leg through the curtains. The girl steps on the edge of his berth and hoists herself into the upper. Joe throws open the curtain and sees several other pairs of girls' legs dangling down from the upper and still more legs climbing up the ladder. Frantically, Joe jumps out of his berth and he is confronted by a sight which knocks into a cocked hat the principle that 2 bodies cannot occupy the same space at the same time. In a triumph of engineering, 14 girls have squeezed themselves into upper 7, or to be exact, 13 girls and Daphne, not to mention the bourbon, the vermouth, the Southern Comfort, the paper cups, the corkscrew, and everything else. There is a seething tangle of arms and legs and blonde heads, like a snake pit at feeding time.
What's going on here? Daphne? Daphne?
It's not my fault. I didn't invite them.
Break it up, girls. Daphne, come on, help me.
He starts tugging at the arms and legs. Jerry pulls himself back into the berth.
All right, girls, you heard Josephine. Everybody out.
Sugar starts to back out of the berth.
Not you, Sugar.
I'm just going to get some ice.
Joe has slipped on his robe as Sugar comes backing out of the berth and down the ladder.
Out, out. That's right, Sugar. Now the rest of you.
As Sugar heads for the water fountain, Joe starts to pull the other girls out.
Don't be a flat tire.
Have a Manhattan.
Come on in. There's lots of room in the back.
Shh, pipe down. We'll all be fired.
Jerry sticks his head out and looks after Sugar.
Sugar, don't you leave me here alone, Sugar.
Sugar has pried open the panel under the water fountain and, reaching inside, drags out a huge cake of ice. Not quite knowing what to do with it, she thrusts it into Joe's hands and turns quickly to the pile of instruments stashed between some empty seats.
Come on, kids. Give it up, will you? The party's over. Everybody go home. What's this?
Sugar has unscrewed a cymbal from the drum and is holding the drummer's metal brush.
Josephine, over here before it melts.
She heads for the women's lounge, and Joe looks at her and looks at the ice, not knowing what else to do with it. In the women's lounge, Sugar comes in, followed by Josephine with the cake of ice.
Put it in here.
Sugar, you're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble.
You better keep a lookout.
Joe
If Feinstalk catches you again, what's the matter with you anyway?
I'm not very bright, I guess.
I wouldn't say that. Careless, maybe.
No, just dumb. If I had any brains, I wouldn't be on this crummy train with this crummy girls band.
Then why did you take the job?
I used to sing with male bands, but I can't afford it anymore.
Afford it?
Have you ever been with a male band?
Me?
That's what I'm running away from. I worked 6 different ones in the last 2 years. Oh, brother.
Rough.
I'll say.
You can't trust those guys.
I can't trust myself. The moment I start with a new band, bingo.
Bingo?
You see, I have this thing about saxophone players,
Really?
especially tenor sax. I don't know what it is, but they just curdle me. All they have to do is play 8 bars of Come to Me, My Melancholy Baby, and my spine just turns to custard, and I get all goose pimply all over, and I just come to them.
Is that so?
Every time.
You know, I played tenor sax.
But you're a girl, thank goodness.
Yeah.
That's why I joined this band. Safety first. Anything to get away from those bums.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're like. You fall for them, you love them, you think it's going to be the biggest thing since Graf Zeppelin. And then the next thing you know, they're borrowing money from you and spending it on other dames or betting it on horses.
You don't say.
Yeah, then one morning you wake up and the saxophone is gone and the guy is gone, and all that's left behind is a pair of old socks and a tube of toothpaste, all squeezed out.
Man.
So you pull yourself together and you go on to the next job and the next saxophone player, and it's the same thing all over again. See what I mean? Not very bright.
Brains aren't everything.
Well, I can tell you one thing. It's not going to happen to me again, ever. I'm tired of getting the fuzzy end of the lollipop.
Ice. What's keeping the ice? The natives are getting restless.
How about a couple drinks for us?
Sure.
Joe and Sugar are alone again.
You know, I'm going to be 25 in June.
You are?
That's a quarter of a century. Makes a girl think.
About what?
About the future. You know, like a husband. That's why I'm glad we're going to Florida.
What's in Florida?
Millionaires. Flocks of them. Like they all fly south for the winter, like birds.
Going to catch yourself a rich bird?
Oh, I don't care how rich he is, as long as he has a yacht and his own private railroad car and his own toothpaste.
You're entitled.
Maybe you'll meet someone too, Josephine.
Yeah, with money like Rockefeller and shoulders like Johnny Weissmuller.
I want mine to wear glasses.
Glasses?
Men who wear glasses are so much more gentle and sweet and helpless. Haven't you ever noticed?
Well, now that you've mentioned it.
They get those weak eyes from reading. You know, those long columns of tiny figures in the Wall Street Journal.
Olga has come back carrying 2 Manhattans in paper cups on the cymbal. She hands them the drinks and starts to refill the cymbal with ice.
That bass fiddle, wow, she sure knows how to throw a party.
She dashes out and Joe looks after worriedly.
To happy days.
I hope this time you wind up with the sweet end of the lollipop.
They drink as Joe studies her like a cat studying a canary. In the Pullman car, Olga is climbing up on the ladder to upper 7 with the new supply of ice in the symbol. The party is now really winging. Amidst the hushed hilarity, the hot water bottle is being passed around. Paper cups and crackers are flying. Some of the girls are smoking. Despite the absence of sugar, Jerry is enjoying himself hugely. Dolores has the floor, finishing the joke that Beanstalk interrupted earlier. So the one-legged jockey says...
What'd he say?
The one-legged jockey said, "Don't worry about me, baby. I ride side saddle." To Jerry, this is excruciatingly comical.
I beg your pardon.
Put some ice on her neck. Rosella takes a hunk of ice from the cymbal and rubs it against the back of Jerry's neck. Jerry leaps up with a squeal and the ice slides down into his nightgown. He squirms and wiggles, crying and laughing and hiccuping.
Ow! It's cold! Ow!
The girls try to fish the ice from inside his nightie, and suddenly Jerry gets a new shock worse than the ice. His hiccups stop, his eyes widen in panic, and his bosoms have been torn loose from their moorings again. He folds his arms over his suddenly flat chest and the ward-off exposure.
Cut it out, girls. Stop it. Josephine, help!
Hey, she's ticklish. With that, all the girls pounce on Jerry and start to tickle him. Jerry flops around like a fish, screaming and laughing and crying. In despair, his eyes fall on the emergency cord. He makes a grab for the cord and pulls it. The pounding wheels suddenly lock and come to a jolting stop. The abrupt stop sends everybody in upper 7 tumbling out into the aisle. Sugar is thrown off balance.
What's happened?
Search me. I mean, I'll see.
He sticks his head out through the curtains. The girls heaped in the aisle are extricating themselves and scurrying back as fast as they can into the berths. Jerry scrambles up the ladder into upper 7 and pulls the curtains. Just as the curtains of lower 1 are flung open and Sue emerges. She glances up the aisle, which is now empty and peaceful looking. What is going on around here? Beanstalk!
Are we in Florida?
The entrance of the women's lounge, Sugar, has joined Joe, and the two are peering through the curtains. The door of the car opens, and the conductor runs in angrily. The two withdraw back into the lounge, and the conductor joins Sue and Beanstalk.
All right, who pulled the emergency brake? Who was it?
Come on, girls, who was it?
I was it.
What's the big idea?
I'm sorry, I was having a nightmare. Something I ate. I'm not at all well. See? Hot water bottle.
Musicians. The last time we had some on the train, they started a wild, drunken brawl. 12 of them in one berth.
The conductor jerks the emergency cord a couple of times, signaling the engineer to start the train again. The train is moving, and Joe appears from the women's lounge and signals to Sugar, who is behind him.
Okay, Sugar, all clear. You better go back to bed.
I might as well stay in there. I won't be able to sleep anyway.
Why not?
Beanstalk. He snores to beat the band. We cut cars to see who sleeps over him, and I always lose. Wouldn't you know?
Want to switch berths with me?
Would you mind terribly?
Not at all. I could fall asleep anywhere, anytime, over anybody.
Thanks, honey.
Good night, Sugar.
Good night, Josephine.
Jerry props himself up on one elbow. A smug grin of anticipation is on his face. Sugar gets into lower 7, closing the curtains, and Joe proceeds down the aisle and mounts the ladder to upper 2. In upper 2, Joe closes the curtains and settles down to sleep. In the berth below, Beanstalk is snoring away, unable Unable to take it, Joe clamps the spare pillow over his head. In upper 7, Jerry takes a long swig out of the hot water bottle to get his courage up, then parts the curtains cautiously and drops down the aisle. He leans toward the curtains to lower 7.
Sleep, Joe?
Sugar, her eyes closed, is drifting off to sleep. Jerry, satisfied that Joe is asleep, pussyfoots down the aisle to berth 2. He listens for a second in Beanstalk's snoring, climbs up to upper 2, where Joe lies face down. The curtains part gingerly, and Jerry sticks his head in.
Sugar, sugar, baby.
Joe opens his eyes wide and is about to turn around, but Jerry puts a restraining hand on his shoulder.
Oh, it's me, Daphne. We don't want to wake up Beanstalk.
He slips into the berth and the curtains close behind him. Jerry stretches out on top of the covers and addresses the back of Joe's head. Joe, a grim expression on his face, is waiting to see how far Jerry will go.
You know what I promised you before, that surprise? Well, I better break it to you gently. In the first place, I'm not a natural blonde. As a matter of fact, there are all sorts of things about me that are not natural. You see, my friend and I, the reason we're on the train with you girls, well, you know those holes in the bull fiddle? That wasn't mice. What I'm trying to say is, my name isn't really Daphne, it's Geraldine. I mean, Jerry. And you know why it's Jerry? Because I'm a boy.
He sweeps his blonde wig off, and Joe, who's had enough, makes a move to sit up, but Jerry pushes him back gently.
Please, don't spoil it. It's too beautiful. Just think of it, you and I, same birth, opposite sexes, male and female, he and she, the moth and the flame. Feel my heart like a crazy drum. I'm mad for you, sugar. What are we going to do about it?
Joe wheels around and he grabs Jerry by the front of his nightgown and starts to shake him like a terrier shaking a rat.
Sugar, what are you doing? Don't get sore, baby.
Jerry reaches up and switches on the light. There's something wrong.
Male and female, the moth and the flame. I ought to slug you.
You wouldn't hit a girl, would you?
Cut to the Seminole Ritz Hotel. The sprawling gingerbread structure basks in the warm Florida sun, fanned by towering palm trees and lulled by waves breaking lazily on the exclusive beach frontage. Wintertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the market is high. The hotel bus chugs up the curved driveway toward the main entrance, hauling the society syncopators from the station. The rear of the bus is loaded with luggage and instruments. From inside comes the sound of the girls' voices, singing down among the sheltering palms. In the driveway, the girls are climbing out of the bus. Luggage and instruments are being unloaded. Jerry helps Sugar down while Joe gets their instruments out of the pile. He hands the bull fiddle case to Jerry and the ukulele case to Sugar.
I'll carry the instruments.
Thank you, Daphne.
Thank you, Daphne. Isn't she a sweetheart?
He leads her towards the entrance. Jerry, loaded down with bass fiddle, ukulele, and sax, glares after them angrily, then follows them, balancing precariously on his high heels. On the veranda, the 12 rich dodos remove their sunglasses to get a better look at the girls. The one nearest to the steps is Osgood Fielding III. He is a bit younger than the others, but that still puts him in his late 50s. He wears white pulse 4s, argyle socks, two-tone shoes, and a gleam in his eye. He tips his Panama hat rakishly as the girl musicians mount the steps. Joe and Sugar come up the steps and Joe nudges her, directing her attention to the old crooks.
Well, there they are. More millionaires than you can shake a stick at.
I'll bet there isn't one of them under 75.
75. That's 3/4 of a century. Makes a girl think.
I hope they brought their grandsons along.
As they pass Osgood and start into the lobby, he tips his Panama jauntily. Then he turns to inspect the next girl. The next girl is Jerry, struggling up the steps, loaded with bass fiddle, saxophone, and ukulele. He trips on the top steps and loses one of his shoes. Osgood jumps up gallantly.
Just a moment, miss. May I?
Help yourself.
I am Osgood Fielding III.
I'm Cinderella II.
If there is one thing I admire, it's a girl with a shapely ankle.
Me too. Bye now.
Let me carry one of the instruments.
Thank you. Aren't you a sweetheart?
He starts into the lobby, and Osgood struggling after him with the instruments. In the Ritz Hotel, the lobby is very resorty. Potted palms, overhead fans, etc. Osgood, balancing the instruments, follows Jerry in.
It certainly is delightful to have some young blood around here.
Personally, I'm type O.
You know, I've always been fascinated by show business.
You don't say.
Yes, indeed. It's cost my family quite a bit of money.
You invest in shows?
No, it's showgirls. I've been married 7 or 8 times.
You're not sure?
Mama is keeping score. Frankly, she's getting rather annoyed with me.
I'm not surprised.
So this year, when George White's scandals opened, she packed me off to Florida. Right now, she thinks I'm out there on my yacht, deep sea fishing.
Well, pull in your reel, Mr. Fielding. You're barking up the wrong fish.
They come to the elevator, and the doors part are with a load of girl musicians going up.
If I promise not to be a naughty boy, how about dinner tonight?
Sorry, I'll be on the bandstand.
Oh, of course. Which of these instruments do you play?
Bowl fiddle.
Fascinating. Do you use a bow or do you just pluck it?
Most of the time, I slap it.
You must be quite a girl.
Want to bet?
My last wife was an acrobatic dancer. You know, sort of a contortionist. She could smoke a cigarette while holding it between her toes. Zowie! But Mama broke it up.
Why?
She doesn't approve of girls who smoke.
The elevator has come down and the door is open.
Goodbye, Mr. Fielding.
Goodbye?
This is where I get off.
Oh, you don't get off that easy.
He eases her into the elevator and follows with the instruments.
All right, driver, once around the park. Slowly, and keep your eyes on the road.
The door closes and the camera pans up to the floor indicator. The arrow moves smoothly past the second floor, then stops abruptly, jiggles violently, and starts down again. The camera pans down and the elevator doors open.
What kind of girl do you think I am, Mr. Fielding?
He slaps Osgood and takes the instruments from him.
Please, it won't happen again.
No, thank you. I'll walk.
He stalks out of the elevator with the instruments and starts indignantly up the stairs. Osgood stands holding his cheek, looking after him, enraptured.
Zowie.
In the fourth floor corridor, I love this movie so much. This is the floor on which the girls are billeted. Sugar Joe and the other society syncopators are gathered around Beanstalk and Sue, while bellhops are bringing up the luggage.
All right, girls, here are your room assignments. My glasses. Where are my glasses?
Olga and Mary Lou in 412. And Mary Lou, keep your kimono buttoned when you ring for room service. Josephine and Daphne in 413. Dolores and Sugar in 414. Me and Sugar? What do you expect, a one-legged jockey?
Oh, Joe, I wish they'd put us in the same room.
So do I. But don't worry. We'll be seeing a lot of each other.
They reach door 414 and Sugar opens it.
414. That's the same room number I had in Cincinnati. My last time when I was with the male band. What a heel he was.
Saxophone player?
What else? I was never crazy about him. Actually, I was ever crazy about him. 2 a.m, he sent me down for knackwurst and potato salad. They were out of potato salad, so I brought coleslaw. Well, he threw it in my face.
Forget it, Sugar, will you? Forget about saxophone players. You're going to meet a millionaire, a young one.
What makes you so sure?
Just my feminine intuition.
She smiles gratefully and enters her room. Joe crosses to his. In room 413, it's a small room with twin beds, more wicker, and adjoining bathroom. Outside the French windows is a balcony giving on the ocean. As Joe comes in, a bellhop is just setting down some suitcases. 2 of them are Joe's and Jerry's. The third is a somewhat more elegant model in a brown cloth with a white stripe down the middle, and the initials BB. The bellhop, a fresh punk of 17, turns to Joe.
Are these your bags?
Yes, and that one too.
Okay, doll.
I suppose you want a tip.
Forget it, doll. After all, you work here, I work here, and believe you me, it's nice to have you with the organization.
Bye.
Listen, doll, what time do you get off tonight?
Why?
Because I'm working the night shift and I got a bottle of gin stashed away, and as soon as there's a lull.
Aren't you a little too young for that, Sonny?
Want to see my driver's license?
Get lost, will you?
That's the way I like 'em, big and sassy. And get rid of your roommate.
He pulls out his bow tie, which is on an elastic, lets in a snapback like an exclamation point. Joe looks after him grimly, then his eyes fall on the suitcase with the stripe, and he shoves it quickly under the bed. The door opens again, and Joe whirls around. Jerry comes staggering in breathlessly with the instruments and kicks the door shut with his foot.
That dirty old man.
What happened?
I got pinched in the elevator.
Well, now you know how the other half lives.
I'm not even pretty.
They don't care, just as long as you wear skirts. It's like waving a red flag in front of a bull.
I'm tired of being a flag. I want to be a bulligan. Let's get out of here, Joe. Let's blow.
Blow where?
You promised the minute we hit Florida, we were going to beat it.
How can we? We're broke.
We can get a job with another band, a male band.
Listen, stupid. Right now, Spats Columbo and his chums are looking for us in every male band in this country.
This is so humiliating.
So you got pinched in the elevator. So what? Would you rather be picking lead out of your navel?
All right. But how long can we keep this up?
What's the beef? We're sitting pretty. We get room and board. We get paid every week. There's the palm trees and the flying fish.
What are you giving me with the flying fish? I know why you want to stick around. You're after sugar.
Me? After sugar?
I watched you two on the bus, lovey-dovey, whispering and giggling and borrowing each other's lipstick.
What are you talking about? Sugar and me, we're just like sisters.
Yeah? Well, I'm your fairy godmother. I'm keeping an eye on you.
Are you decent?
Come in.
You girls have seen a brown bag with a white stripe in my initials?
What?
A suitcase with all my resort clothes.
No, we haven't.
Can't understand it. First my glasses disappeared, then one of my suitcases.
Where's
Sugar.
my ukulele?
Now a ukulele? There must be a sneak thief around here.
Here you are, sugar.
Thank you. A bunch of us girls are going for a swim. You want to come along?
You betcha.
Wait a minute, Daphne. You haven't got a bathing suit.
She doesn't need one. I don't have one either.
See, she doesn't have one either. You don't?
We'll rent some at the bathhouse. How about you, Josephine?
No thanks. I'd rather stay in and soak in a hot tub.
Yeah, let her soak. Come on.
Don't get burned, Daphne.
Oh, I have suntan lotion.
Go rub it on me and I'll rub it on her. We'll rub it on each other. Bye.
He ushers Sugar out in high spirits. Joe looks after them, then quickly locks the hall door and, stepping into the bathroom, turns off the water. He hurries over to the bed and slides out Beanstalk's suitcase, opens it, and it's crammed full of resort clothes. And Joe takes out a blazer, flannel pants, a yachting cap, which he perches on his head. Then he lifts his skirts above his knee, pulls out Beanstalk's glasses from under his garter, and pulls them on, peers around myopically. His enlarged eyes are grotesque, but then again, so is his scheme. Dissolved to the beach, to the accompaniment of By the Beautiful Sea, several girls from the band in bathing suits and caps are running into the surf. The other girls are already in the water, splashing around and frolicking like a school of playful porpoises. There is no sign of Jerry. Sugar, standing up to her waist in water, suddenly lets out a startled squeal and slaps the surface of the water behind her.
Daphne, cut that out.
Jerry comes diving up, spouting water like a dolphin. He is wearing a girl's knitted bathing suit with a short skirt and a rubber cap.
What do you think you're doing?
Just a little trick I picked up in the elevator.
A good-sized wave rolls up behind them.
Ooh, here comes a big one.
He grabs Sugar, holding onto her tightly, and the wave breaks over them and sweeps off their feet. Strolling casually along the beach is Joe. He is wearing Beanstalk's blazer, flannel slacks, a silk scarf, a yachting cap, and the glasses. In his hand, he carries a rolled-up copy of the Wall Street Journal. He looks off toward the ocean. The girls are scampering out of the water, and some of them start to toss a beach ball around. Sugar and Jerry come running up the beach hand in hand. They take their caps off, and Sugar puts on a short terry cloth jacket. Jerry jumps around on one foot, his head tilted, shaking the water out of his ear, then starts to rub himself off with a towel.
You know, Daphne, I had no idea you were such a big girl.
You should have seen me before I went on a diet.
I mean, your shoulders and your arms.
That's from carrying around the bull fiddle.
But there's one thing I do envy you for.
What's that?
You're so flat-chested. Clothes hang so much better on you than they do on me.
Look out, Daphne! The beach ball comes sailing into shot, and Jerry catches it.
Come on, Sugar, let's play.
He takes Sugar's hand and skips off with her to join the other girls. Joe, meanwhile, has come up to a basket chair nearby. Sitting in front of it, sorting seashells out of a small pail, is a boy of 5. A few feet away stands his mother, calling to him. Let's go, Junior. Time for your nap.
Nah, I want to play.
You heard your mother, Junior. Get lost. Scram. This beach ain't big enough for both of us.
Boy scrambles to his feet and screams, "Mommy!" and runs off, leaving the pail full of shells behind. Joe settles himself in the chair and peers over his shoulder toward the girls playing ball. The girls, Sugar and Jerry among them, are standing in a wide circle, tossing the beach ball around and chanting rhythmically. I love coffee, I love tea. There is a wild throw over Sugar's head in the direction of Joe's chair. Sugar turns and runs after the ball to retrieve it. This is exactly what Joe had been waiting for. As the ball comes rolling past, he unfolds the Wall Street Journal and pretends to be reading. Just as Sugar runs by, Joe extends his foot a couple of inches, enough to trip her and send her sprawling into the sand.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, my fault.
You're not hurt, are you?
I don't think so.
I wish you'd make sure.
Why?
Because usually when people find out who I am, they get themselves a wheelchair and a shyster lawyer and sue me for $250,000.
Oh, well, don't worry. I won't sue you, no matter who you are.
Thank you.
So who are you?
Now, really.
Jerry and the other girls are waiting for Sugar.
Hey, Sugar, come on.
Sugar picks up the ball. Joe buries himself behind the Wall Street Journal again, and Sugar hesitates for a second, then throws the ball back to the girls. She steps closer to Joe and peers around the paper, studying him.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
Not very likely.
Are you staying at the hotel?
Not at all.
Your face is so familiar.
Possible you saw it in a newspaper or magazine, Vanity Fair.
That must be it.
Would you mind moving just a little? You're blocking my view.
A view of what?
They run up a red and white flag on the yacht when it's time for cocktails.
You have a yacht?
She turns and looks seaward at a half a dozen yachts of different sizes bobbing in the distance.
Which one is yours? The big one?
Certainly not. With all that unrest in the world, I don't think anybody should have a yacht that sleeps more than 12.
Oh, I quite agree. Well, tell me, who runs up that flag? Your wife?
No, my flag steward.
Well, who mixes the cocktails? Your wife?
No, my cocktail steward. Look, If you're interested in whether I'm married or not,
I'm not interested at all.
well, I'm not.
That's very interesting.
Joe resumes reading his paper and Sugar sits on the sand beside his chair.
How's the stock market?
Up, up, up.
I'll bet while we were just talking, you made like $100,000.
Could be. Do you play the market?
No, the ukulele. And I sing.
For your own amusement?
Well, a group of us are appearing here at the hotel. Sweet Sue and her society syncopators.
Your society girls?
Yes, oh yes, quite. You know, Vassar, Brownmar. We're only doing this for a lark.
Syncopators? Does that mean you play that fast music? Jazz?
Yeah, real hot.
Oh, well, I guess some like it hot. But personally, I prefer classical music.
So do I. As a matter of fact, I spent 3 years at the Sheboygan Conservatory of Music.
Good school. And your family doesn't object to your career?
Oh, they do indeed. Daddy threatened to cut me off without a cent, but I don't care. It was such a bore. Coming out parties, cotillations,
Inauguration balls?
opening of the opera,
Riding to the hounds?
and always the same 400.
You know, it's amazing we never ran into each other before. I'm sure I would have remembered anybody as attractive as you.
You're very kind. I'll bet you're also very gentle and helpless.
I beg your pardon?
You see, I have this theory about men with glasses.
What theory?
Well, maybe I'll tell you when I know you a little better. What are you doing tonight?
Tonight?
I thought you might like to come to the hotel and hear us play.
I'd like to, but it may be rather difficult.
Why?
I only come ashore twice a day when the tide goes out.
Oh?
It's on the account of the shells. That's my hobby.
You collect shells?
Yes. So did my father and my grandfather. We've all had this passion for shells. That's why we named the oil company after it.
Shell oil?
Please, no names. Just call me Junior.
By this time, the ball game has broken up and Jerry approaches Sugar and Joe.
Come on, Sugar, time to change for dinner.
Run along, Daphne. I'll catch up with you.
Okay.
He takes a couple of steps away, then freezes and comes back and stares at Joe open-mouthed.
What is it, young lady? What are you staring at?
You.
This happens to me all the time in public.
I recognized him too, from his picture. It was in Vanity Fair.
Vanity Fair?
Would you mind moving along, please?
Yes, you're in the way. He's waiting for a signal from his yacht.
His yacht?
It sleeps 12. This is my friend Daphne. She's a Vassar girl.
I'm a what?
Or was it Bryn Mawr?
I heard a very sad story about a girl who went to Bryn Mawr. She squealed on her roommate, and they found her strangled with her own brassiere.
Yes. You have to be very careful about picking a roommate.
Well, I guess I better go.
It's been delightful meeting you both,
Will you come hear us tonight?
if it's at all possible.
Oh, please, do come. Don't disappoint us. It'll be such fun. And bring your yacht.
Come on, Daphne.
She leads Jerry away and Joe throws them a casual salute. As Jerry and Sugar move off, Jerry looks over his shoulder.
A hobby. How about that guy?
Now look, Daphne, hands off. I saw him first.
Sugar, dear, let me give you some advice. If I were a girl, and I am, I'd watch my step.
If I'd been watching my step, I never would have met him. Wait till I tell Josephine.
Yeah, Josephine.
Will she be surprised? I just can't wait to see her face.
Neither can I. Come on, let's go up to her room and tell her right now.
Well, we don't have to run.
Oh, yes, we do.
They run away, and in the fourth floor corridor, Jerry, holding Sugar by the hand, comes running down the corridor from the elevator. He flings open the door to 413 and pulls Sugar inside. Jerry and Sugar stop breathlessly and look around. The room is empty.
Josephine,
I guess she's not in here.
that's funny. Josie, I can't imagine where she can be.
Well, I'll come back later.
No, Sugar, wait. I have a feeling she's going to show up any minute.
Well, believe it or not, Josephine predicted the whole thing.
Yeah, this is one for Ripley.
Do you suppose she went out shopping?
That's it. Something tells me she's going to walk through that door in a whole new outfit.
He opens the door and peers out into the corridor, expecting Joe to show up in the yachting outfit. At the same time, through the partly open door of the bathroom, comes Josephine's voice singing Running Wild. Jerry does a double take, and Sugar starts toward the bathroom and the door and opens it. Jerry follows her incredulously. In the bathroom, Joe, with his wig on, is lying languidly in the tub, taking a bubble bath up to his neck in white foam.
Josephine!
Oh, I didn't hear you come in.
The most wonderful thing happened.
What?
Guess.
The repealed prohibition?
Oh, come on. You can do better than that.
I met one of them.
One of whom?
Shell Oil Jr. He's got millions. He's got glasses and a yacht.
You don't say.
He's not only got a yacht, he's got a bicycle.
Daphne. Go on. Tell me all about him.
Well, he's young and handsome and a bachelor, and he's a real gentleman, not one of those grabbers.
Maybe you'd better go off after him if you don't want to lose him.
Oh, I'm not going to let this one get away. He's so cute. He even collects shells.
Shells? Whatever for?
You know, the old shell game.
Daphne, you're bothering us.
Anyway, you're going to meet him tonight.
I am?
He said he'd be coming to hear us play. Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? I saw the way he looked at you. He'll be there for sure.
I hope so.
What do you think, Josephine? What does it say in your crystal ball?
Joe glares at him. Meanwhile, Dolores has come into the room in her wet bathing suit and carrying a dripping rubber horse. She sticks her head into the bathroom. Sugar, you got the key? I'm locked out and I'm making a puddle in the hall.
Well, I'll see you on the bandstand, girls.
She follows Dolores out and closes the door. Joe and Jerry are alone now. The atmosphere is tense. They look at each other steely-eyed.
Wise guy, huh? Trying to louse me up?
And what are you trying to do to poor Sugar? Putting on that millionaire act and that phony accent. Nobody talks like that. I've seen you pull some low tricks on dames, but this is the trickiest and the lowest and the meanest.
His words trail off as he sees Joe rise slowly out of the tub. The mystery of his quick change is now solved. He didn't change at all. He is fully dressed in Beanstalk's outfit and is clutching the yachting cap as he emerges from the bathtub covered with suds. He looks like some diabolic monster. He advances on Jerry menacingly.
I'm not scared of you. I may be small, but I'm wiry. When I'm aroused, I'm a tiger.
Joe is closing in on Jerry on the wall.
Don't look at me like that, Joe. I didn't mean any harm. It was just a little joke. Don't worry. I'll press the suit myself.
The phone rings.
Telephone. You better answer the phone.
Joe slams the sopping cap on Jerry's head as Jerry coughs and splutters. Joe picks up the ringing phone.
Hello? Hello? Yes, this is 413. Ship to shore? All right, I'll take it.
At the yacht Candalonia, it is a chic vessel indeed, and so is Osgood Fielding III, lounging in a deck chair and speaking into a radio telephone.
Hello, Daphne? It's that naughty boy again. You know, Osgood. In the elevator? You slapped my face? Who is this?
Joe is on the phone. Through the open door of the bathroom, we see Jerry wiping his face.
This is her roommate. Daphne can't talk right now. Is it anything urgent?
Well, it is to me. Will you give her a message? I'd like her to have a little supper with me on my yacht after the show tonight.
Got it. Supper, yacht, after the show. I'll tell her. Your yacht?
The New Caledonia. That's the name of it. The old Caledonia went down during a wild party off Cape Hatteras. But tell her not to worry. This is going to be a quiet little midnight snack. Just the two of us.
Just the two of you. What about the crew?
Oh, that's all taken care of. I'm giving them shore leave. We'll have a little cold pheasant and champagne. And I checked with the Coast Guard. There will be a full moon tonight. Oh, and tell her I got a new batch of Rudy Valley records.
That's good thinking. Daphne's a pushover for him.
I'm a pushover for whom? What is it? Who's on the phone?
Shh. Yes, Mr. Fielding. You'll pick her up after the show in your motorboat. Goodbye. What's that you said? Oh, Zowie? I'll give her the message.
What message? What motorboat?
You got it made, kid. Fielding wants you to have a little cold pheasant with him on his yacht.
Oh, he does.
Just the three of you on that great big boat. You and him in Rudy Valley.
Chance, you call him right back and tell him I'm not going.
Of course you're not. I'm going.
You're going to be on the boat with the dirty old man?
No, I'm going to be on the boat with Sugar.
Where's he going to be?
He's going to be offshore with you.
With me?
That's right.
Oh, no, not tonight, Josephine.
Cut to the hotel ballroom. It's a good-sized nightclub of the period, with about 200 guests in formal dress, evening gowns, etc. A revolving globe with a mirrored surface throws patterns of light and shadow on the dancers. On the bandstand, Sugar, backed by the rest of the orchestra, is singing. The girls in the band, Joe and Jerry among them, wear uniform evening gowns and long earrings. Sugar and Sue wore distinctive gowns. Sugar's song is I Wanna Be Loved by You, which she belts out across the style of the 20s, complete with the boo-boo-be-doo. In back of Joe is Jerry, thumping the bass grimly. He looks off and sees Osgood Fielding III in a white mess jacket sitting alone at a table. Catching Jerry's eye, he waves exuberantly, his face beaming with amorous anticipation. On the bandstand, Jerry looks away haughtily.
Daphne, your boyfriend is waving at you.
We could both go take a flying jump.
Remember, he's your date tonight, so smile. Come on, you can do better than that. Give him teeth, the whole personality.
Why do I let you talk me into these things? Why?
Because we're pals, buddies, the two musketeers.
Give me the musketeers. How am I going to keep this guy ashore?
Tell him you got seasick on a yacht. Play miniature golf with him.
Oh no, I'm not getting caught in a miniature sand trap with that guy.
The fresh young bellhop we saw earlier comes up beside the bandstand, carrying a large wicker basket full of flowers.
Which one of you dolls is Daphne?
Bull fiddle.
The bellhop hands the basket to Jerry and nods off toward Osgood's table.
It's from Statchel Mouth at table 7. This is from me to you, doll.
Beat it, Buster.
Never mind, leaving your door open. I got a pass key.
He winks and moves off. Joe looks after him contemptuously, then turns to Jerry and picks up the basket of flowers.
What are you doing with my flowers?
I'm just borrowing them. You'll get them back.
He hands Jerry the single flower, then looks around and fishes a small envelope out of his décolletage and slips it into the basket. Sugar finishes her number and returns to her seat next to Joe. Sue leads the orchestra into the signature music by Sweet Sue.
I guess he's not going to show up. It's 5 minutes to 1. You suppose he forgot?
Well, you know how those millionaires are. These came for you.
For me? It's Shell Oil.
No.
Yes, he wants me to have supper with him on his yacht. He's going to pick me up at the pier.
No.
Yes.
You heard her, yes.
Oh, Josephine, just imagine me, Sugar Kowalczyk from Sandusky, Ohio, on a millionaire's yacht. If my mother could see me now.
I hope my mother never finds out.
At his table, Osgood catches Jerry's look and blows kisses to him. On the bandstand, Sue turns to the audience for her signature spiel. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. This is Sweet Sue saying goodnight and reminding all of you daddies out there, every girl in my band is a virtuoso, and I intend to keep it that way. Behind her, Sugar picks up her ukulele and the basket of flowers and tiptoes off the stand. Joe waves after her, wishing her luck. Sugar hurries toward the staircase, passing Beanstalk, who is planted near the reservation desk. As Sue cuts off the music, Joe frantically packs up his saxophone. Then he leaps off the bandstand and dashes past the bewildered Beanstalk, starting up for the stairs. In room 413, Joe barges in and drops the saxophone case, locks the door, then he darts into the bathroom, wriggling out of his dress. Camera pans over to the other door of the bathroom. As the dress and shoes come flying out, they are immediately followed by Joe, now partially dressed as a man. He slips into Beanstalk's coat, puts on the yachting cap. Even to a captain, he would be a captain now, except for one thing. In his haste, he has neglected to take off his earrings. He opens a window and steps out onto the balcony. Joe moves along the balcony and climbs over the railing, starting to the shiny down a post. Sugar, in a fur boa over an evening gown she wore on the bandstand, comes tripping down the steps, hurries eagerly toward the beach. On the hotel grounds, to one side is the main entrance. A dozen bicycles are parked in a rack, and Joe drops into the scene and sees the bicycles and pulls one out, mounts it, and pedals off. Standing under a tree in front of the hotel are Osgood and Jerry. Jerry is in his evening gown and is holding a flower in his hand. Osgood.
Osgood.
I'm so sorry. I lost my spot. What page?
We're at the bottom of 98. Bottom of 99, excuse me.
Oh, no. It's such a waste. A full moon, an empty yacht.
I'll throw up.
Well, then why don't we go dancing? I know a little roadhouse down the coast.
Joe comes whizzing past them on his bicycle, and Jerry looks after him open-mouthed.
Well, I'll be. He does have a bicycle.
Who?
About that roadhouse.
They got a Cuban band, that's the Berries. Why don't we go there? Blindfold the orchestra and tango till dawn.
You know something, Mr. Fielding? You're dynamite.
You're a pretty hot little firecracker yourself.
He links his arm through Jerry's and leads him down the path. Sugar is now almost running toward the pier, a look of great expectation on her face. Joe is pedaling desperately to get to the pier before her, oblivious of the earrings dangling incongruously from his earlobes. At the pier, about a dozen motorboats are tied up. Sugar hurries across the planking and up the stairs to the deserted pier, stops and looks around for her date. Behind her, Joe comes skimming along the planking on his bicycle and swoops under the pier. Disheartened Sugar thinks she has been stood up. Joe dismounts from the bike, ducks underneath the pier, and hops into the motorboat marked Caledonia. Straightening up, he waves to Sugar on the pier above him.
Ahoy there.
Ahoy!
Joe suddenly remembers his glasses. He takes them out of his pocket and puts them on. As he does so, he notices earrings. He pulls them off, shoves them in his pocket, and he's not a second too soon, for Sugar has just about reached him.
Been waiting long?
It's not how long you wait. It's who you're waiting for.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the flowers.
I wanted them to fly down some orchids from our greenhouse, but all of Long Island is fogged in.
It's the thought that counts.
She settles herself back on the cushioned seat. Joe starts fiddling around with the mysterious knobs on the instrument panel. He pushes and pulls and twists the knob. Then finally, the motor turns over, but does not catch.
I seem to be out of gas.
It's sort of funny, you being out of gas with Shell oil and everything.
Joe desperately works the knobs and finally does something right as the motor starts.
Here we go.
Pressing every lever he can, he manages to shift into gear. The boat backs out erratically, and Joe shifts into neutral. But no matter how hard he tries to find the forward gear, he keeps winding up in reverse.
I just got this motorboat. It's an experimental model.
Looks like they're on the wrong track.
Do you mind riding backwards? It may take a little longer.
It's not how long it takes, it's who's taking you.
The motorboat glides off backwards, and as though it were the most natural thing in the world, skims out toward the open water where the yachts are anchored. On the yacht, the Caledonia is bobbing gently on a calm, moonlit sea. The motorboat with Joe and Sugar comes in stern backwards. Joe, looking over his shoulder, maneuvers the motorboat to a stop under the landing ladder. Reams of romantic music are under all of this. On the deck, as Joe and Sugar are aboard, she gazes around starry-eyed.
It looks so small from the beach, but when you're on it, it's more like a cruiser or a destroyer.
Just regulation size. We have 3 like these.
3?
Mother keeps hers in Southampton, and Dad took his to Venezuela. The company is laying a new pipeline.
My dad is more interested in railroads. Baltimore, Ohio. Which is the port and which is the starboard?
Well, that depends on whether you're coming and going. I mean, normally the aft is on the other side of the stern, and that's the bridge. So you can get from one side of the boat to the other. How about a glass of champagne?
Love it. Which way?
Yes. Now let's see. Where do you suppose the steward set it up?
He looks around confused by the unfamiliar geography, then tentatively opens the nearest door, revealing a flight of stairs leading below the deck.
Oh, you have an upstairs and a downstairs.
Yes, that's our hurricane cellar.
He closes the door and opens another. It's a storage bin.
And another nice thing about this yacht, lots of closet space.
Sugar has stepped up to a lighted porthole and looks inside.
Oh, in here.
Of course. On Thursdays, they always serve me in the small salon.
He opens the door and ushers Sugar inside. In the salon of the yacht, it's a very elegant layout. Mahogany paneling, shelves of trophies, etc. On the table are lit candles, cold pheasant under glass, and champagne in a silver ice bucket. Joe and Sugar come in, and as Joe takes his cap off, Sugar looks around dazzled.
It's exquisite, like a floating mansion.
It's all right for a bachelor.
What a beautiful fish.
Caught him off Cape Hatteras.
What is it?
Oh, a member of the herring family.
A herring. Isn't it amazing how they get those big fish into those little jars?
They shrink when they're marinated.
Joe has opened the champagne and filled a couple glasses.
Champagne?
Don't mind if I do.
Down the hatch, as we say at sea.
Bon voyage.
Sugar notices the trophies.
Look at all the silverware.
Trophies. You know, skeet shoeing, dog breeding, water polo.
Water polo, isn't that terribly dangerous?
I'll say. I had 2 ponies drowned under me.
Where's your shell collection?
Yes, of course. Now, where could they have put it? On Thursdays, I'm sort of lost around here.
What's on Thursdays?
It's the crew's night off.
You mean we're alone on the boat?
Completely.
You know, I've never been completely alone with a man before, in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the night.
Oh, it's perfectly safe. We're well anchored. The ship is in ship shape. And the Coast Guard promised to call me if there are any icebergs around.
Oh, it's not the icebergs, but there are certain men who would try to take advantage of a situation like this.
You're flattering me.
Well, of course, I'm sure you're a gentleman.
Oh, it's not that. It's just that I'm harmless.
Harmless? How?
Well, I don't know how to put it, but I have this thing about girls.
What thing?
They just sort of leave me cold.
You mean like frigid?
It's more like a mental block. When I'm with girls, it does nothing to me.
Have you tried?
Have I? I'm trying all the time.
He casually puts his arm around her, kisses her on the lips, and lets go of her again.
See? Nothing.
Nothing at all?
Complete washout.
Well, that makes me feel just awful.
Oh, it's not your fault. It's just that every now and then Mother Nature throws somebody a dirty curve. Something goes wrong inside.
You mean you can't fall in love?
Not anymore. I was in love once, but I'd rather not talk about it. How about a little cold pheasant?
What happened?
I don't want to bore you.
Oh, you couldn't possibly.
Well, it was my freshman year at Princeton. There was this girl, her name was Nellie. Her father was vice president of Hump Mobile. She wore glasses, too. That summer, we spent our vacation at the Grand Canyon. We were standing on the highest ledge, watching the sunset. Suddenly, we had an impulse to kiss. I took off my glasses. I took a step toward her. She took a step toward me.
Oh, no.
Yes. 8 hours later, they brought her up by mule. I gave her 3 transfusions. We had the same blood type, type O. It was too late.
Talk about sad.
Ever since then, numb. No feelings. Like my heart was shot full of Novocaine.
You poor, poor boy.
Yes. All the money in the world. But what good is it? Mint sauce or cranberries?
How can you think about food at a time like this?
What else is there for me?
Is it that hopeless?
My family did everything they could. Hired the most beautiful French upstairs maids. Got a special tutor to read me all the books that were banned in Boston. Imported a whole troupe of Balinese dancers with bellies on their ankles and those long fingernails. What a waste of money.
Have you tried American girls?
Why?
She kisses him. Pretty good, but nothing spectacular.
Is that anything?
Thanks just the same.
He resumes nibbling on the pheasant leg and sits on the couch.
Maybe if you saw a good doctor.
I have. Spent 6 months in Vienna with Professor Freud. Flat on my back. Then there were the Mayo brothers, and injections and hypnosis and mineral baths. If I weren't such a coward, I'd kill myself.
Don't talk like that. I'm sure there must be some girl someplace that could.
If I ever found a girl that could, I'd marry her like that.
Would you do me a favor?
What is it?
I may not be Dr. Freud or a Mayo brother or one of those French girls upstairs, but could I take another crack at it?
All right, if you insist.
She bends over him and gives him a kiss of slightly higher voltage.
Anything this time?
I'm afraid not. Terribly sorry.
Would you like a little more champagne? Maybe if we had some music, or how do you dim the lights?
Look, it's terribly sweet of you to want to help out, but it's no use. Think the light switch is over there, and that's the radio. It's like taking somebody to a concert when he's tone deaf.
By this time, there is only candlelight in the salon, and from the radio comes soft music, Stairway to the Stars. Sugar crosses to the couch with 2 champagne glasses, hands one to Joe, sits beside him. Joe drinks down the champagne, and Sugar hands him the second glass. He drains that too.
You're not giving yourself a chance. Don't fight it. Relax.
She kisses him again.
It's like smoking without inhaling.
So inhale.
This kiss is the real McCoy as they stay locked in each other's arms. Swipe 2, Roadhouse at night. It is small, dark, and practically deserted. The Cuban band is playing La Cuparcita. Among the dancers on the floor are Osgood and Jerry, easily the most stylish couple in the joint. Jerry has the flower tucked in his cleavage, and as they tango,
Daphne,
Yes, Osgood?
you're leading again.
Sorry.
they tango on. Return to the salon. Joe and Sugar are still in the same embrace. The radio music continues, and finally they break.
Well,
I'm not quite sure. Try it again.
She does, and as they break, she looks at him. The suspense is unbearable.
I got a funny sensation in my toes. Like somebody was barbecuing them over a slow flame.
let's throw another log on the fire.
Another kiss.
I think you're on the right track.
I must be. Your glasses are starting to fog up.
Another kiss. Swipe back to the roadhouse. Osgood and Jerry have now got the tango by the throat. Jerry is dancing with his back to the camera, and as Osgood whips him around, we see that Jerry has the flower clamped between his teeth. They reverse positions again, and as Osgood grabs the flower back between his teeth. Return to the salon. The radio is still on, and Joe and Sugar are just coming out of their last kiss. Joe removes his glasses, which are now completely fogged up.
I never knew it could be like this.
Thank you.
They told me I was kaput, finished, washed up, and now you're making a chump out of all those experts.
Mineral baths. Now really.
Where did you learn to kiss like that?
Oh, you know, junior league, charity bazaars. I used to sell kisses for the milk fund.
Another.
Tomorrow, remind me to send a check for $100,000 to the milk fund.
He takes over now and kisses her. Return to the roadhouse. The chairs are stacked on the tables, and Osgood and Jerry are the only couple on the floor. Osgood, wearing the flower behind his ear and messaging his behind with a tablecloth, is tangoing with wild abandon around Jerry. Suddenly, he grabs Jerry, bends him over in a dashing dip. They straighten up and dance a couple of steps, and now Jerry returns the compliment. He almost breaks Osgood's spine with an even more dashing dip. As for the Cuban musicians, we now discover that Osgood has kept his word. They are all blindfolded. Cut to the yacht at anchor. Sugar and Joe are in the motorboat, gliding away from the Caledonia toward the pier. Backwards, naturally. It is quite romantic, with the sun about to rise and the incidental music augmenting the mood. At the pier, Joe and Sugar, his arm over her shoulder, walk dreamily toward the hotel. From the other direction comes Osgood, twirling the flower in his hand and humming La Comparsita. As he passes Sugar and Joe, he waves to them jauntily, then continues toward the same motorboat which just deposited them. He gets in and starts the motor and takes off. At the hotel entrance, Joe leads Sugar up to the steps, then stops and faces her.
Good night.
Good morning.
How much do I owe the milk fund so far?
$850,000.
Let's make it an even million.
They have a final kiss, and Sugar turns and starts up the steps, then comes back again.
I forgot to give you your receipt.
They kiss again, then float through the entrance. Then she floats to the entrance of the hotel. Joe watches her till she is out of sight, then takes off his glasses, hurries up the steps, starts to climb up one of the posts of the veranda. In room 413, Jerry, still in his evening gown, is stretched out on his bed, gaily singing La Cumbarcita and accompanying himself with a pair of maracas. Joe appears over the railing of the balcony and steps through the window into the room.
Hi, Jerry. Everything under control?
I got things to tell you.
What happened?
I'm engaged.
Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl?
I am.
What?
Osgood proposed to me. We're planning a June wedding.
What are you talking about? You can't marry Osgood.
You think he's too old for me?
Jerry, you can't be serious.
Why not? He keeps marrying girls all the time.
But you're not a girl. You're a guy. And why would a guy marry a girl? I want to marry a guy.
Security.
Jerry, you better lie down. You're not doing well.
Stop treating me like a child. I'm not stupid. I know there's a problem.
I'll say there is.
His mother. We need her approval, but I'm not worried because I don't smoke.
Jerry, there's another problem.
Like what?
Like, what are you going to do on your honeymoon?
We've been discussing that. He wants to go to the Riviera, but I sort of lean towards Niagara Falls.
You're out of your mind. How can you get away with this?
I don't expect it to last. I'll tell him the truth when the time comes.
Like when?
Like right after the ceremony.
Oh,
Then we'll get a quick annulment. He'll make a nice settlement on me. I'll have those alimony checks coming in every month.
Jerry, listen to me. There are laws, conventions. It's just not being done.
But Joe, this may be my last chance to marry a millionaire.
Look, Jerry, take my advice. Forget the whole thing. Just keep telling yourself you're a boy.
I'm a boy. I'm a boy. I wish I were dead. I'm a boy. I'm a boy. What am I going to do about my engagement present?
What engagement present?
Jerry picks up a jewel box and hands it to Joe.
He gave me this bracelet.
Hey, these are real diamonds.
Naturally, you think my fiance is a bum? Now I guess I'll have to give it back.
Wait a minute. Let's not be hasty. After all, we don't want to hurt poor Osgood's feelings.
A knock at the door.
Just a minute.
They grab their wigs and slap them on. Joe dives into bed, pulling the covers up to his chin.
It's me, Sugar.
Come in.
Sugar, now in a negligee, comes in or rather floats in.
I thought I heard voices, and I just had to talk to somebody. I don't feel like going to sleep.
I know what you need, a slug of bourbon.
Oh no, I'm off that stuff for good.
Did you have a nice time?
Nice. Oh, it was suicidally beautiful.
Did you get fresh?
Of course not. As a matter of fact, it was just the other way around. You see, he needs help.
What for?
Talk about elegant. You should see the yacht, candlelight, mint sauce, and cranberries.
Gee, I wish I'd been there.
I'm going to see him again tonight and every night. I think he's going to propose to me as soon as he gets up his nerve.
That's some nerve.
Daphne got a proposal tonight.
Really?
Really?
From a rich millionaire.
Well, that's wonderful. Oh, poor Josephine.
Me?
Daphne has a beau. I have a beau. If only we could find somebody for you.
The door opens and in stops the fresh bellhop, gin bottle in one hand and the passkey in the other. Where is that bellhop?
Here I am, doll.
Oh no.
Joe disappears under the covers. Cut to the lobby of the Ritz Hotel. We are close on a doormat bearing the same name Seminole Ritz Hotel. A pair of men's feet step across the mat, the shoes encased in white linen spats. Camera pulls back to reveal Spats Colombo entering the lobby, surrounded by his 4 henchmen and followed by bellhops carrying their luggage. The henchmen are all dolled up for Florida, knickers, Panamas, two-tone shoes, and one of them is carrying a golf bag. Spats is somewhat more conservatively dressed in a light gray business suit. They stop and look around. Draped across the rear wall is an impressive banner reading, "Welcome delegates of the 10th Annual Convention, Friends of Italian Opera." The second henchman.
Friends of Italian Opera. Hey, that's us!
A convention official wearing a badge and ribbon identifying him as a committee member comes up to Spats.
Register over there.
Spats nods to his boys and they move toward the registration desk, past other groups of delegates. You would hate to meet any of these mugs in a dark alley, but what it makes it heartwarming is that they all have a cauliflower ear for good music. Sitting on a settee is a gentleman reading a police gazette. As he lowers the paper, we see it's our friend Mulligan, the federal agent. He looks after Spats and his boys with a wry smile. At the desk, Spats and his group are identifying themselves to the registrar. Leaning against a column supervising the proceedings is a dark, menacing young hoodlum, Johnny Paradise. He is insolently flipping a $50 in the air.
Spats Colombo, delegate from Chicago, South Side chapter.
Aye, Spats, we was laying 8 to 1. You wouldn't show.
Why wouldn't I?
We thought you was all broken up about Toothpick Charlie.
Well, we all gotta go sometime.
Yeah, you never know who's gonna be next. Okay, Spats, report to the Sergeant at Arms.
What for?
Orders from little Bonaparte.
Spats has now been joined by the 4 henchmen, who have also received their identification tags, and Paradise motions them behind the screen. Behind the screen is a couple of officials waiting.
Put him up, Spats.
What's the idea?
Little Bonaparte don't want no hardware around.
Spats complies, and the official frisks him.
Okay, you're clean.
You're not.
He pulls an automatic out of the official's shoulder holster and tosses it into a wire basket, which already holds a large collection of hardware. The official glares at him, then turns and runs his hands down the first henchman. He feels something at the bottom of one of his knickers and pulls the elastic cuff. A gun drops out.
It ain't loaded.
The official pulls the elastic of the other knicker, and several dozen bullets drop to the floor. The official kicks them away and faces the henchman with the golf bag.
What's in there? My golf clubs. Putter, niblick, number 3 iron. What's this? My mashie.
See ya at the banquet, Spats.
Where'd you pick up that cheap trick? Come on, boys.
He and his henchmen start across the lobby toward the reception counter as they pass Mulligan. He rises.
Well, Spats Colombo, if I saw one.
Hello, Copper. What brings you to Florida?
I heard you opera lovers were having a little rally, so I thought I'd better be around in case anybody decides to sing.
Big joke.
Say, Maestro, where were you at 3 o'clock on St. Valentine's Day?
Me? I was at Rigoletto.
What's his first name and where does he live?
That's an opera, you ignoramus.
Where did they play it? In a garage or on Clark Street?
Clark Street? Never heard of it.
Ever hear of the deluxe French cleaners on Waybush Avenue?
Why?
Because the day after the shooting, you sent in a pair of spats. They had blood on them.
I cut myself shaving.
You shave with your spats on?
I sleep with my spats on.
Quick, kid, you did that vulcanizing job on toothpick Charlie, and we know it.
You and who else?
Me and those two witnesses whom your lawyers have been looking for all over Chicago.
You boys know anything about any garage or any witnesses?
Us? We was with you at Rigoletto's.
Don't worry, Spats. One of these days we'll dig up those two guys.
That's what you'll have to do. Dig them up.
Leads his boys from Mulligan toward the reception desk. The elevator door opens, and among the passengers stepping out are Joe and Jerry in their summer dresses. Joe is carrying their room key.
I feel like such a tramp, taking jewelry from a man under false pretenses.
Get it while you're young. And you better fix your lips. You want to look nice for Osgood, don't you?
Jerry stops, takes a mirror and lipstick out of his handbag, and starts to touch up his lips.
It's just gonna break his heart when he finds out I can't marry him.
So? It's going to break Sugar's heart when she finds out I'm not a millionaire. That's life. You can't make an omelet without breaking an egg.
What are you giving me with the omelet?
Nag, nag, nag. Look, we got a yacht. We got a bracelet. You got Osgood. I've got Sugar. We're really cooking.
Joe?
What?
Jerry sees in the mirror Spats Columbo and the four henchmen.
Something tells me the omelet is about to hit the fan.
He nods in the direction of this reception desk. Joe looks and sees what Jerry has seen.
Come on, Daphne.
With as much grace as they can muster, they hurry back toward the elevator. The doors are just opening and our bellhops are coming back out. Trundling an old man in a wheelchair, the old man wears a Panama hat, dark glasses, and is covered up to his chin with a plaid blanket. Joe and Jerry almost fall over the invalid in their haste to get into the elevator. Joe scramble inside.
I'm going up.
Hold it.
Joe and Jerry freeze as Spats steps in the elevator, followed by the four henchmen.
I don't mean to be forward, but ain't I had the pleasure of meeting you two broads before?
Oh, no.
You must be thinking of two other broads.
You ever been in Chicago?
Us? We wouldn't be caught dead in Chicago.
Spats, his interest aroused, is now also studying the two boys. To their relief, the elevator stops and the operator opens the door.
3rd floor.
What floor are you on?
Oh, never mind.
He waves them away with the hand holding the room key. The henchman glances at the number tag.
Room 413. We'll be in touch.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
As the elevator doors start to close, Spats glances over his shoulder towards the boys, frowning thoughtfully. In the elevator, Joe and Jerry look at each other and swallow hard. In room 413, Joe and Jerry are frantically dumping their clothes into 2 open suitcases on the bed.
I tell you, Joe, they're on to us. They're going to line us up against the wall and then the police are going to find 2 dead dames and they're going to take us to the ladies' morgue, and when they undress us, I tell you, Joe, I'm just going to die of shame.
Keep packing.
Okay, Joe.
He picks up an orchid corsage in a transparent box from the desk and starts to put it into the suitcase.
Not that, you idiot.
But they're from Osgood. He wanted me to wear them tonight.
Joe tosses the corsage box into the basket. Jerry starts to pack the maracas.
I'll never find another man who's so good to me.
Joe fishes out Beanstalk's yachting cap from under the bed and turns it over in his hand, lost in thought.
Joe, if we get out of this hotel alive, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sell the bracelet and grab a boat to South America and hide out in one of those banana republics. The way I figure it is if we eat nothing but bananas, we can live there for 50 years, maybe 100 years. That is if we get out of the hotel alive. Do we forget anything?
There's shaving stuff and there's sugar.
Sugar?
Give me room 414.
What do you think you're doing?
Making a telephone call.
Telephone call? Who's got time for that?
Can't just walk out on her without saying goodbye.
Since when? Usually you leave them with nothing but a kick in the teeth.
That's when I was a saxophone player. Now I'm a millionaire.
Drop her a postcard. Any minute now, those gorillas may be up here.
Hello? Room 414? This is the ship to shore operator. I have a call for Miss Sugarcane.
Room 414, Dolores in a robe and hair curlers is at the phone. Sugar in a negligee is stretching out on her bed, dreamily reading a copy of Vanity Fair.
Hey, Sugar, it's for you from the yacht.
Hello?
Jerry's watching Joe on the phone.
Hello, my dearest darling. So good to hear your voice.
I may throw up.
No, I didn't, darling. To tell the truth, I never closed an eye.
That's funny. I never slept better. And I had the most wonderful dream. I was still on the yacht, and the anchor broke loose, and we drifted for days and days. And you were the captain, and I was the crew. And I kept a lookout for icebergs. And I sorted your shells and mixed your cocktails. And when I woke up, I felt like swimming right back to you.
Yes. Now about our date for tonight.
I'll meet you on the pier again, right after the show.
I'm afraid not. I can't make it tonight.
Tomorrow?
Not tomorrow either. You see, I have to leave. Something unexpected came up. I'm sailing right away.
Where to? Oh, South America? That is unexpected.
You see, we have these oil interests in Venezuela, and I just got a cable from Dad. The board of directors decided on a merger.
A merger? How long will you be gone?
Quite a while. As a matter of fact, I'm not coming back at all.
You're not?
It's all rather complicated, what we call high finance. But it so happens that the president of Venezuela Syndicate has a daughter and...
Oh, that kind of merger. Is she young, pretty?
According to our tax advisors, she's only so-so. But that's the way the oil gushes. A man in my position has a certain responsibility to the stockholders, all those little people who invest their life savings.
Oh, of course, I understand. At least, I think I do.
I knew you would. I only wish there was something I could do for you.
Oh, but you have. You've given me all that inside information. First thing tomorrow, I'm gonna call my broker and have him buy 50,000 shares of Venezuelan oil.
Smart move. Oh, by the way, did you get my flowers? You know, those orchids from my greenhouse? The fog finally lifted over Long Island and they flew down this morning.
As he talks, he opens the corsage box, puts the bracelet in with the orchids, and closes it again.
That's strange. I sent them to your room. They should have been delivered by now.
Holding the phone in one hand and the corsage box in the other, he moves towards the hallway. Sugar covers the mouthpiece of the phone and turns to Dolores.
Dolores, will you look outside and see if there are any flowers?
The door of 413 opens. Joe, having come as far as the length of the telephone cord will permit, sits the corsage box down, kicks it across the hall to room 414. As he closes his door, room 414 opens. Dolores reaches out and picks up the corsage box. Dolores brings it to Sugar.
Oh, yes, they're here. Oh, white orchids. Would you believe it? I haven't had white orchids since I was a debutante. What's this?
What's what? Oh, that. Just a little going away present.
Real diamonds. They must be worth their weight in gold. Are you always this generous?
Not always. But I want you to know I'm very grateful for what you did for me.
I didn't do anything. It just happened.
Jerry emerges from the bathroom carrying their toilet articles and an armful of towels embroidered with Seminole Ritz Hotel.
Oh, the navigator just came in. We're ready to take off.
Well, anchors away. You have a bon voyage, and if you need an orchestra to play at your wedding, well, we'll be through here in a couple of weeks.
Goodbye, my darling.
He hangs up and stares moodily at the phone, and Jerry shuts his suitcase.
I don't know about the captain, but the navigator is getting his tail out of here.
Yeah, let's shove off.
They start to gather up the instruments and luggage.
Wait a minute. My bracelet. What happened to my bracelet?
What do you mean your bracelet? It's our bracelet.
All right, what happened to our bracelet?
Don't worry. We did the right thing with it.
What did we do? Joe, you're not pulling one of your old tricks.
No tricks, no mirrors, nothing up my sleeve. It's on the level this time.
The door opens and Sugar comes in. The boys whirl around her.
Where's that bourbon?
She heads straight for the bureau and starts to open various drawers. Joe steps in front of the suitcase to conceal them. Joe conceals the drawers from Sugar.
Oh,
I don't know, all of a sudden I'm thirsty.
Joe fishes the hot water bottle out of an open suitcase behind him and hands it to Sugar. As she reaches for it, Jerry notices the diamond bracelet on her wrist.
How did you get that bracelet?
You like it?
I always did.
Junior gave it to me. It must have at least 30 stones.
34.
He's going to South America to marry some other girl. That's what they call high finance.
That's what I call a louse. If I were you, Sugar, I'd throw that bracelet right back in his face.
Daphne.
He was the first nice guy I ever met in my whole life, and the only one who ever gave me anything.
You'll forget him, Sugar.
How can I? No matter where I go, there'll always be a Shell station on the corner. I'll bring this back when it's empty.
He exits, and Jerry turns on Joe furiously.
Are you crazy or something? The place is crawling with mobsters. Gangrene is setting in. You're making like Diamond Jim Brady. How are we going to get out of here? How are we going to eat?
We'll walk. And if we have to, we'll starve.
Here you go with that we again.
He picks up his suitcase and starts toward the door. Joe grabs him and pulls him back.
Not that way. We don't want to run into Spats and his chums.
He steps through the open French window onto the balcony. Jerry starts to hand out the instruments and luggage to him. In Spat's suite, the 4 henchmen in dinner clothes are playing cards in the lavishly appointed living room when Spats emerges from the bedroom. He's just slipping into his tuxedo coat, and his spats are unbuttoned.
Your hands clean? Okay. Button my spats.
He drops into a chair, and the second henchman kneels and starts to button the spats.
Say, boss, I've been talking to some of the other delegates, and the word is that little Bonaparte is real sore about what happened to Toothpick Charlie. Him and Charlie, they used to be choir boys together.
Opera burst out crying.
He even got Charlie's last toothpick, the one from the garage, and had it gold-plated.
Like I was telling you, little Bonaparte is getting soft. He doesn't have it here anymore. Used to be like a rock. Too bad. I think it's time for him to retire.
Second the motion.
How are we going to retire him?
We'll think of something cute. One of these days, little Bonaparte and Toothpick Charlie will be singing in the same choir again.
Points out outside the window. Joe appears, climbing down a post from the floor above. He lands on the balcony, reaches up for the instruments and suitcases, which the unseen Jerry is passing down to him.
And this time, we'll make sure there are no witnesses.
The first henchman glances out the window and sees Jerry climbing down the post to join Joe.
Look, it's those 2 broads from the elevator.
Spats turns and looks. The second henchman, beaming, crosses to the window and calls out.
Hey, join us.
Joe and Jerry, panic-stricken, peer through the Venetian blinds at Spats and his mob. Then they scramble for their lives over the railing of the balcony and down, their hats and wigs knocked askew.
What's the matter with those dames?
Maybe those dames ain't dames.
He yanks up the Venetian blind, steps quickly out onto the balcony, and looks down over the railing. Then he picks up the bull fiddle and drags it through the window into the room.
Same faces, same instruments. And here's your Valentine's card.
Those two musicians from the garage.
They would be got dead in Chicago, so we'll finish the job here. Come on.
Led by Spats, they all dash out of the room. After a moment, Joe and Jerry's heads appear cautiously over the balcony railing. Seeing that the room is empty, they climb up, rush in through the open windows.
All right, so what do we do now?
First thing we got to do is get out of these clothes.
On the third floor corridor, there is no sign of Spats and his boys. The elevator door is just opening, and the bellhop emerges, pushing the old man in the wheelchair. Joe and Jerry watching as the bellhop wheels the old man into one of the rooms. They look at each other, and the same idea occurs to both of them, nod their heads in agreement. Slipping out of Spats' room, they cross the corridor to the old man's room and start inside. Cut to the lobby. The elevator door opens and a bellhop backs out with a man in a wheelchair. As they turn into camera, we discover the bellhop is Jerry, the uniform fitting him much too snugly, and the blanket-covered figure in the wheelchair is Joe, dressed in an old man's suit, Panama hat, and dark glasses. As Jerry and Joe proceed with dignity toward the front door, we see Spats and his henchmen deployed in strategic positions around the lobby. Jerry wheels Joe past Spats. Spats glances at them casually, then becomes aware of a strange clacking sound. He looks down. There is something decidedly odd about the bellhop, because his trouser legs terminate in high-heeled shoes. Spats, grinning smugly, signals the two henchmen who are guarding the front door. They start to close in on Joe and Jerry. Jerry abruptly spins the wheelchair around, struddles it toward the rear of the lobby. The other two henchmen take up the chase. Jerry and Joe disappear into a corridor leading toward the rear of the hotel. As the pursuing henchmen start to turn into the corridor, the empty wheelchair comes whizzing toward them. The henchman stumbles over it, becomes momentarily entangled. Joe and Jerry, sprinting toward the corridor, reach an open door and dart inside. The henchmen come racing up and passing the door, round a bend and into the corridor. In the pantry, the center of the room, stands a huge cake. The two convention officials are decorating it under the watchful eye of Johnny Paradise, who leans against the wall, monotonously tossing a coin into the air. One of the officials, wielding a confections cone, has almost finished lettering the inscription, "Happy Birthday, Spats." Joe and Jerry burst in from the corridor, and the three hoods look up startled. Before they can recover, the boys have scooted across the room and out another door. Joe and Jerry come dashing in breathlessly and stop to get their bearings, dominating the room in a U-shaped table, covering the flowers about 30 place settings, with a half grapefruit on each plate. So specific. On the wall behind the head of the table is the banner welcoming the friends of Italian opera. The boys glance around the empty room and make a beeline for the main entrance. As they reach the door, it starts to open, and voices are heard from the corridor. They turn desperately toward the second door, but that too is opened. Trapped, they duck under the banquet table, disappearing behind the log white tablecloth just as the banqueters start to troop in. They are the same mugs we saw in the lobby, but they are now dressed in tuxedos or white dinner jackets, chatting amiably. Under the table, Joe and Jerry huddle together as the delegates start to seat themselves. Suddenly, a pair of legs slide beneath the tablecloth directly in front of them. The boys recoil when they see that the owner's shoes are encased in Spats. Spats Columbo is settling himself at the table while his four henchmen take the seats on either side of him.
What happened?
Me and Tiny, we got him cornered, but we lost him in the shuffle.
Where were you guys?
Us? We was with you at Rigoletto's.
Ah, why, you stupid.
He picks up half a grapefruit in front of him and is about to ram it in the henchman's face.
It's all right, boss. We'll get him after the banquet. They can't be too far away.
Under the table, Joe and Jerry exchange a panicky look. There is a burst of applause from the delegates as the door strides Little Bonaparte, accompanied by half a dozen convention officials. Little Bonaparte is short, bald, vicious, and wears a hearing aid, and he proceeds toward the head of the table. His pose is Napoleonic, head bowed, hands clasped behind his back. Spats and his henchmen pointedly abstain from applauding. Little Bonaparte remains standing at the place of honor while his associates seat themselves.
Thank you, fellow opera lovers. It's been 10 years since I elected myself president of this organization, and if I say so myself, you made the right choice. Let's look at the record. We have fought off the crackpots who want to repeal prohibition and destroy the American home by bringing the corner saloon. We have stamped out the fly-by-night operators who endangered public health by brewing gin in their own bathtubs, which is very unsanitary. We have made a real contribution to the national prosperity. We are helping the automobile industry by buying all those trucks, the glass industry by using all those bottles, and the steel industry, all those corkscrews. And what's good for the country is good for us. In the last fiscal year, our income was $112 million before taxes. Only we ain't paying no taxes. Of course, like in every business, we've had our little misunderstandings. Let us now rise and observe 1 minute of silence in memory of 7 of our members from Chicago, North Side chapter, who were unable to be with us tonight on account of being rubbed out. You two, Spats, up!
Spats and his boys get up reluctantly and join the others in silent tribute. The inscribed top of the cake has been lifted off to reveal a hollow interior. Johnny Paradise is climbing inside.
Easy now. You know when you come out?
Yeah, the second time they sing, for he's a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny.
Okay. And don't mess up the cake. I promise to bring a piece back to my kids.
Johnny Paradise squats down inside the cake. The officials set the lid back in place. In the banquet room, the minute of silence is over, and the delegates are seating themselves. Little Bonaparte remains on his feet.
Now, fellow delegates, there comes a time in the life of every business executive when he starts to think about retirement. In looking around for somebody to fill my shoes, I've been considering several candidates. For instance, there is a certain party from Chicago, Southside chapter. Now, some people say he's gotten a little too big for his spats, but I say he's a man who will go far. Some people say he's gone too far, but I say you can't keep a good man down. Of course, he still has a lot to learn. That big noise he made on St. Valentine's Day, that wasn't very good for public relations. And letting those 2 witnesses get away, that sure was careless.
Under the
Don't
table,
worry about those 2 guys. They're as good as dead. I almost caught up with them today.
You mean you let them get away twice? Some people would say that was real sloppy, but I say to err is human, to forgive divine. And you, Spats, the boys told me you was having a birthday, so we baked you a little cake.
My birthday? It ain't for another 4 months.
So we're a little early. So what's a few months between friends? All right, boys, now all together. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow.
the other delegates include Spat's henchmen join in the song. The lights are extinguished, and from the pantry come the 2 officials, pushing a cart on which stands the cake with candles blazing. They wheel the cake up directly in front of Spats, whose eyes it uneasily. Little Bonaparte, meanwhile, is conducting the song with relish. As the singers reach the climactic line, the top of the cake tears open, and out pops Johnny Paradise, aiming his machine gun at Spats and his henchmen. He starts blazing away. Under the table, Joe and Jerry cringe. Little Bonaparte winces and turns the volume of his hearing aid. He can't stand loud noises. Spat's 4 henchmen have slumped across the table, and Spats is clenching his chest.
Big joke.
His eyes close, and he starts to slip out of his chair. Under the table, Joe and Jerry react as Spat's body comes sliding toward them, feet first.
Get those guys!
4 of the officials rush into the pantry after Joe and Jerry as at the same time, the main door opens and Mulligan strides in. Standing in the corridor behind him are several frightened waiters. Mulligan switches on the lights and looks down at the 5 corpses.
What happened here?
There was something in that cake that didn't agree with them.
Mulligan crosses to the cake and glances inside, then turns to little Bonaparte.
My compliments to the chef, and nobody's leaving this room till I get a receipt. Get the receipt.
You want to make a federal case out of it?
Yeah.
In the lobby, Joe and Jerry bolt out of the rear corridor, go pounding up the stairs, followed by two of the officials. As they disappear from sight, the camera pans over to the elevator. The door opens, and out step Joe and Jerry wearing their wigs and girls' coats. As the boys mince daintily toward the front door, they see the other two officials coming toward them. They change their course abruptly. The first two officials come hurrying down the stairs.
They slipped right through our hands.
Don't worry, we got our guys watching the railroad station, the roads, the airport. They can't get away.
Hear that?
Yeah, but they're not watching yachts. Come on, you're going to call Osgood.
Steers Jerry toward a row of telephone booths near the entrance to the ballroom. There is an easel sign outside announcing that Sweet Sue and her society syncopators are appearing nightly in the Peacock Room, and from inside comes the sound of music.
I tell him.
Tell him you're going to elope with him.
Elope, but there are laws, conventions.
There's a convention, all right. There's also the ladies' morgue.
He shoves Jerry toward the phone booth. Jerry reaches under his coat for a coin, revealing the rolled up trousers of the bellhop uniform underneath. As he steps into the phone booth, Joe becomes aware of the sound of Sugar's voice drifting up from the ballroom. She is singing, "I'm through with love." Almost despite himself, Joe finds himself drawn toward the ballroom entrance. Joe appears in the vestibule at the top of the stairs and looks down. From his point of view, we see Sugar perched on top of the piano, bathed in a spotlight. She is a little drunk and more than a little blue, and she is singing the lyrics with heartbreaking conviction. Joe, watching her from the landing, is deeply moved. Slowly, he starts down the steps. On the bandstand, Sugar is winding up the torchy ballad when suddenly Joe steps into the spotlight and without a word, he takes her in his arms and kisses her.
Josephine!
Beanstalk!
Hey, that's no dame.
He and his companion rush toward the bandstand. On the bandstand, Joe is brushing a tear away from Sugar's cheek.
None of that, Sugar. No guy is worth it.
He catches sight of the two officials bearing down on him. Leaping from the bandstand, shoulders his way through the couples of the dance floor. With the two officials on his heels, Joe gallops up the stairs. On the bandstand, all is confusion as the girls stop playing and stand up. Sugar is staring after Joe in complete bewilderment.
Josephine?
Suddenly it dawns on her that kiss. Her eyes widen, her hand flies to her mouth, and she looks with growing comprehension at the bracelet on her wrist. In the lobby, Jerry is just stepping out of the phone booth when Joe bursts out of the ballroom entrance.
All fixed. Osgood is meeting us on the pier.
Not on the pier yet.
He grabs Jerry and they take off across the lobby as their pursuers appear behind them. The boys head for the front door, but finding their way blocked by the other two officials, they reverse their field and hot-footed toward the rear corridor, the four officials' coverage of their trail. Joe and Jerry charge down the rear corridor and go skidding around the corner as the officials come tooling after them. Two ambulance attendants round the turn of the corridor, pushing a wheeled stretcher. On the slab is a boy covered with a sheet that hangs down the sides and sticks out from the end of the sheet are a pair of spat-covered shoes. The four officials make way for their grisly cargo, then resume the chase. As the ambulance attendants wheel the stretcher toward the lobby, the trailing sheet lifts up and Joe and Jerry, who have been clinging to the undercarriage, hop out. They tear across the lobby and scoot out the front door. On the pier, Osgood is waiting impatiently. He hears something and looks toward the beach. Jerry and Joe, still wearing their wigs and girl coats, come scrambling down the steps, race across the planking toward the pier. On the pier, Osgood's face lights up. Jerry comes puffing up the stairs, followed by Joe.
This is my friend Josephine. She's going to be a bridesmaid.
Pleased to meet you.
Come on.
He practically drags Osgood down the stairs leading to the motorboat.
She's so eager.
Swooping down from the beach on a bicycle comes Sugar, pumping like mad. The bicycle bounces down the steps, and Sugar pedals across the planking, sounding her horn. Osgood and Jerry have settled themselves in the front seat of the motorboat, and Joe is getting into the rear seat. When he hears the sound of the bicycle horn, he looks up. Osgood starts the motor. Sugar comes racing on down the stairs. Todd on the pier and leans over the railing.
Wait for Sugar!
She hurries toward the staircase. In the motorboat, Osgood turns to Jerry.
Another bridesmaid?
Flower girl.
Sugar comes charging down the stairs and starts to get into the rear seat behind Joe.
Sugar, what do you think you're doing?
I told you I'm not very bright.
Let's go.
In the motorboat in the back seat, Joe is removing his wig and coat.
You don't want me, Sugar. I'm a liar and a phony, a saxophone player. One of those no good nooks you've been running away from.
I know. Every time.
Do yourself a favor. Go back where the millionaires are. The sweet end of the lollipop. Not the coleslaw on the face and the old socks and the squeezed out tube of toothpaste.
That's right. Pour it on. Talk me out of it.
She kisses him resoundingly, bending him over backwards till they are both practically out of sight. Up front, Osgood is blithely steering the boat and keeping his eyes straight ahead. Jerry is looking over his shoulder at the activities in the back seat.
I called Mama. She was so happy, she cried. She wants you to have her wedding gown. It's white lace.
Osgood, I can't get married in your mother's dress. She and I, we're not built the same way.
We can have it altered.
Oh, no, you don't. Look, Osgood, I'm going to live with you. We can't get married at all.
Why not?
Well, to begin with, I'm not a natural blonde.
It doesn't matter.
And I smoke. I smoke all the time.
I don't care.
And I have a terrible past. For 3 years now, I've been living with a saxophone player.
I forgive you.
And I can never have children.
We'll adopt some.
But you don't understand. I'm a man.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Jerry looks at Osgood, who is grinning from ear to ear, clasps his hands to his forehead. How is he going to get himself out of this? But that's another story, and we're not quite sure the public is ready for it. Fade out the end.
Yay!
Woo! Thank you, you guys. You were all awesome.
That was awesome.
It's so good. It's so good. Alrighty, what's everybody's next one?
Oh God,
I got one tomorrow.
Oh.